A board of directors special meeting for a linkage session with MIEA, following a linkage session with the schools foundation. And then we will have one item on our agenda to discuss open enrollment. So I call the meeting to order and look for a motion to establish the agenda.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Jody Lee made the motion, Christina Martinez made the second, the vote is 5-0. We have Maggie Ty and D'Angelo is on Zoom. And we are here for the linkage session. So welcome. Should we start with introductions?
Sure.
So I'm Deborah Lurie, I'm president of the school board, and I've been on the board for 6 years, and I have a high school senior.
I'm Jody Lee, and I've been on the board a month. I'm a high school sophomore and a college sophomore. I'm Christina Martinez, and I have been a month and a half. And I have a 7th grader and a sophomore.
Let's go to Maggie Ty.
Yeah, hi, I'm Maggie Ty Tucker, and this is my 5th year on the board, and I've got 2 college sophomores, which is hard to believe, and one 11-year-old who will be starting at IMS next year.
Dan Glowitz, this is my 3rd year, and I have 2 kids, both at IMS, a 6th grader and 8th grader.
Ava.
Oh, I'm Ava. I'm the junior board rep, and this is my first year being a student board rep. Yeah. And Washa's right now at a doctor's appointment. She's getting held back, so.
Erin, Matt.
I'm Erin Batterfield. I'm the Executive Director of Compliance, Legal Affairs, and Human Resources.
Matt Sullivan, Executive Director of Finance and Operations.
And Ian.
Andy Hamp, and I'm classified at large and been in the district for 20 years.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Mountain Grace. I'm filling in for Trina Sherman today, and I teach first grade at Northwood.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I am a para at Northwood, and I have people who have graduated from the district and one junior.
I'm Alice Larkin. I'm at IMS. I teach 6th grade language arts, social studies, and drama.
I'm Miriam Eve. I teach 2nd grade at Western Mercer.
Lori D. Stolinsky, 2nd grade Island Park, and I have a 7th and a 9th grader.
This is our line of 2nd grade.
Jessica Olson. I teach 2nd grade over at Lake Bridge.
Michelle Hayes. I'm a math teacher at the high school.
Sally Lozier, I'm the current MIEA president. I also am doing some learning support at Island Park. I have 3 children who graduated from Mercer Island School District, and all 3 have now graduated from college, so.
Claire Kurtenbach, music at West Mercer. Does anyone in the back like to introduce themselves?
Susan Ham, Island Park. Christina Getty, instructional technology coach at the high school.
Ian Henry, Communications Coordinator for the district.
Michelle Mueller, executive assistant friend.
And
Runwell Superintendent.
all right. Well, welcome everyone. I know we didn't have, pre-agenda, but I also know that this group often comes with lots of things to talk about. And so we really just wanted to give you guys the floor, the opportunity to talk about what you would like to talk about with us.
Thank you. I think I'm gonna lead off. First, I just want to thank you for having us here. It's always exciting for us to have a moment with the school board that's not in any way antagonistic or stressful for anybody. That's really not what the linkage session is meant to be. We want to welcome Jody and Christina, of course. We're super excited to have you on the board. So, and just wish that it all goes smoothly for you as you go through the terms that you're in. I know that most of you are very familiar with Mercer Island Education Association. I do need to just make it clear to the public who we are. So we represent 450 plus employees. That's the majority of our school district, which includes custodians, bus drivers, nurses, counselors, teachers, paraeducators, and a whole lot of other people as well, OTPTs. I mean, we really are the working mechanisms that make education happen in this school district. And we're very invested in the success of Mercer Island School District, not just because we care about our students, but also because this is our livelihoods. Mercer Island is our employer. We want our employer to be successful. So one of the interests we saw as coming from the school board to us was some discussion that had to do with finances, competitive pay, finding a more diverse workforce in some way. And so our questions are gonna circulate around those issues, as well as a message that we got from Fred's roadshow, which really is, we're underfunded by our state, and that's a problem. And so I think the questions coming from, mostly these are members of our executive board, are going to wrap around those subjects. So, and none of them are gotcha questions. We're really trying to figure out, how do we start to navigate collaboratively to get to a state level and get more funding into our school district for our students? Because in the end, what we're all trying to do is the best thing by the students that are here. The other nuance of my role is I also need to figure out how to do the best thing for all the people who are members of Mercer Island Education Association and employees of the district. So that's kind of where I want to start, and then whoever wants to go first in asking a question, this is we can go in order of how the questions were, or how do you want to do it? So
Sure, I can start. My question is around, the topic is like the role of the school board in the community. By community, we mean educators and families as well. We know that community participation in our public education system is essential. So we were wondering, how does the board keep track of the number of participants at public school board meetings? I'm not sure, I've got like other questions too, so I'm not sure if I need to pause or should I just keep going? I don't know what's best for y'all.
Is it on the same topic?
Yes, this is all.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. What ideas do you have about increasing community participation in these meetings? What does the board believe is the purpose of public meetings? And so that's really about the meetings themselves. So I guess that's. So that's the first part.
So, so the purpose, so the public meetings, because they're public by law, under the Open Public Meetings Act, they have to be public. Virtually everything we do is in public. We're not meeting separate, as a group, making any decisions. Everything, all the discussions you see are in fact, the discussions that we are having. You know, I mean, like I said, that's according to state law. That's what we do. In terms of keeping track of, but importantly, recognizing that they are meetings of the board in public. So they're not public, they're not meetings for the public. They're meetings of the board in public. And we typically have, you know, business to do. And then there's discussions we have as a result of, in order to make decisions about the business that we do. So it's really focused on getting the work done that we need to get done. And as I know you all know, you know, we have some primary responsibilities as board directors. Number one is hiring and supervising our one employee, the superintendent, and work with the superintendent to, the board establishes policy, and then superintendent carries those out in operations and makes all those decisions in that respect. We really feed off of each other, I think, and have good discussions about us so that Dr. Rundle can really understand the board's point of view in terms of policy decisions. And then also, you know, kind of keeping us informed along the way. We're also responsible for, auditing and approving the budget. And, then, you know, creating and monitoring our policies. Really try and steer clear of operational. We're not, well, there might be some educators, but we're not here as educators. We are here as the policy people, the very, very high level, and really try not to do the micromanaging. It's hard sometimes, but try not to do the micromanaging. We do not keep track of who comes to board meetings. Most of us don't even have Zoom open, so if there's people online, I mean, I can speak for myself, I don't typically have Zoom open, so I don't even know. Sometimes, you know, when they were at high levels, I would just be curious, like, how many did we have? But no, there's no record keeping, all of that open to the public for transparency and for participation. We would love to have more public input, but understanding people's busy lives, public input can come in many ways. It can come in being present and providing public input to the board. It can be via email. It could be, what all board directors are happy to meet with individuals or groups of people, which we do, I think, regularly. And, you know, any way that people are comfortable to have those conversations, they're just as important. I think this board takes a ton of pride in making sure that we get as much community input as we can. The last couple of years, it's been pretty rewarding to see the road shows that Fred has taken out around the district in terms, I know, in large part presenting to staff about the budget, about enrollment, about how that impacts our staffing levels. Ian has you know, really just kind of flown with all of the communications and highlighting our staff and highlighting our students and the things that they're all accomplishing. So those are all really important parts. It's nice, you know, it's finding a balance of making sure that we're getting the word out there, and doing that in the best way possible so we get the feedback that we need. We genuinely have not made decisions when we're asking for feedback. Ever. We wouldn't, that's disrespectful. We wouldn't waste people's time and pretend like we want to hear feedback when we've already made up our minds. That hasn't happened yet. And so, we would, like I said, we would love to hear more, have more participation. I would say we definitely get more emails from staff than we do public input, but either way, they both matter. Everyone takes reading the emails very seriously and contemplating and bringing them into discussion. But I would personally, and I'll go to others to see if they have other opinions or other thoughts. I would love to hear from staff more. I want to hear good things that are happening. I want to hear suggestions for improvements. I want to hear what you need from the board, what you need from admin that might not be happening. You know, really needs, wants, and then kind of pie in the sky. So
That kind of ties in actually with my next
Okay.
question, and I thank you, that was actually really, really helpful. How often are board members in the schools authentically speaking with educators and learning directly about what is happening at the schools? MIEA can help facilitate authentic conversations with staff at our buildings and sites. Would this be of interest to you?
So this is actually, we were talking about this a bit at, we had a board retreat yesterday. Maggie, I see your hand in a second, I'm gonna go to you. We were talking about this yesterday, that, you know, through at least my parent lifetime in the school district, is, you know, there's been different philosophies from superintendents in terms of, you know, very much a hands off, it's my staff, you go through me, to, you know, it's an open book, right? And so it's very much finding the comfort level of, we are not employers of staff. We have absolutely no authority to direct, and we all have students in the district. So being able to wear that parent hat and then the director hat sometimes it's a tricky line to walk. And so when there's been reluctance to engage in that way, at least for me, that's the reason. It's just, it's a comfort level in terms of making sure that no one feels any pressure to, you know, to do something for us that, or a board director, and making sure that those lines are very clear. I think we're all pretty good about saying, okay, parent hat, you know, I'm talking to you as my daughter actually had Sally when I was running for board, right when I started running for board, I think, but then that was done. But you know, so that's a little bit tricky. So we're all like, and especially our new directors are really trying to figure out where is that line for them. So when it's I love to engage personally, and I'm gonna go through and let everyone speak for themselves, but I love to engage with staff. I speak to many of you, whether it's one-on-one or at site visits. I say, you know, and I made this point yesterday in our retreat, how do we monitor and able to give feedback to our employee if we're not talking to those who work for him? To me, it's kind of a meaningless level of supervision. Not that we're micromanaging what he's doing, but you know, I want to know general consensus. How's the morale? What's staff concerned about? Is staff feeling like they can meet the needs of our students, which is what we're all here for. So that's kind of my point of view. Maggie, I'm going to go to you, then Dan, and then you'll be next.
Yeah, we always really welcome invitations. I think what we try to avoid is putting anyone on the spot. Like if I were to call up my kid's school and be like, I want to come and see this program, like that would be inappropriate. But we love getting invitations in our email when it's like, hey, there's this thing going on, or would you like to come and see this thing? Then that takes that kind of awkwardness out of it. And yeah, I agree with Deborah. Like if we're not out there seeing what's going on in the schools directly, and also just kind of picking up the vibe from parents and hearing what parents are talking about and so forth, you know, it's hard for us to do our jobs correctly. Which gets back to the original question about public input and, you know, public awareness of what's going on in board meetings, which like I very much welcome. Like the more people are tracking what's going on in school board, the better. I'm a broken record on this topic, so I'm not going to repeat what I always say, but anybody in the district, staff or parent or community member who wants like the really quick Cliff's Notes version of how to track what's going on board and how to use board docs, which is a super powerful tool, feel free to reach out to me at my board email, maggie.tucker@mercerislandschools.org, and I will happily like meet up or do a phone call or a Zoom call and walk somebody through it, because it's like 10 minutes of instruction for a lifetime of following school board meetings. So thanks, Dan.
Yeah, to echo what Maggie, Ty, and Deborah have said, I think everyone on the board believes that an engaged community is a supportive one for our public schools. And so one of the things that the board did when it came to Superintendent Rundle's contract was requiring a communication plan, which he's really run with, and you know, he's done the road shows that has been discussed. But from our perspective, that is vital to hear all input from staff, from parents, from students, from members of the community. And it's something that we felt was sufficiently important to make an addition to the contract to sort of perhaps do it better than it had been done prior to Fred steering the ship. And is something that the board is very sensitive to.
Can I add something really quick? That we will love to hear not only your struggles for what's not working, but we'll love to hear your successes too, because by knowing what's working, we can also see what we can support you with.
So,
I want to give Jody a chance.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I just finish off, as professional educators, we would really like to encourage you to visit our workplaces, be it schools, offices, classrooms, or buses, so you can get a better vision of what the day-to-day joys and stresses are for our members. So, and we really appreciate the input. I know our members, you know, hearing from you and encouraging coming in, and I think, having those conversations, and I know we would all be available as well if you wanted to arrange something at our sites. Thank you so much.
I have the second question. And mine kind of ties into Alice's, and that is, what value do you see in connection and collaboration with MIA, and how would that look between us? Do you want me to start off, or does anyone want to start? Okay, so, so it's, MIA is clearly a essentially vital partner stakeholder in the district. Staff is 87% of our budget people. And, we know that student success is directly correlated to, quality staff and the things that you do in taking care of our kids every day. And, I at least would love to express tremendous gratitude for that. Kind of should have started off the meeting with that, but it does not go unnoticed how much our staff cares about our kids. And things get emotional, and it's because it's our babies, and they're your babies too. So thank you for taking care of them in the way that you do, and helping ensure that they have every opportunity they can. In terms of MIA, we consider MIA obviously a vitally important partner, but really leave the operations to Fred to take the lead on. So in terms of, we know and get updates on the fact that he is meeting with Sally and your team, monthly, weekly, bi-weekly, regularly. I love you do. And we get updates on those, we get updates on bargaining. But it really is, monitoring that line of staying away from being involved in the operations and directly involved in bargaining, where, it's really high level, setting parameters and then letting the people that actually know what they're doing do their thing. So, it's always kind of monitoring that line and making sure. And so, I understand it might feel like, we're kind of a step back. We are a step back, very purposefully. But it doesn't mean that not open to hearing, listening, hearing concerns and wanting to know more. We need to know more so that we can set those parameters. I think, as the senior member of the board right now, and probably the most years of experience with policy governance, I was a little bit hesitant when I first came in to board in terms of, how can you make policies when you don't really know what's going on? Fred shares a tremendous amount of information with us, always has an open door to answer questions. We ask questions about processes all along, but it really is, I think, best for kids when we're not involved in an operational level. And so really leave that to the experts to manage that, keep us informed, what's going on. Don't think we're not, at least pulling the strings, or at least determining how long the strings are. Because that's the parameters, that's our responsibility to do. We hear things, we're also the voice of the community. So when we're hearing rumblings in the community, we're sharing that and asking questions about it. Making sure that we believe that decisions are being made in the best way possible for all involved. Does that answer that question? Anyone else have anything to add?
Yeah. I would just say, to piggyback on what Deborah said, agree with it completely, that at the board level, we have been very focused on what it means to be able to provide a living wage to teachers. And our board has probably been the most outspoken of any board in the area or the state in terms of making sure that regionalization is maintained in order to be able to provide a living wage to all staff. So certainly it's something that's on our radar. The ability to preserve regionalization last year netted our district $2 million more than it would have otherwise had Reichdahl's proposal passed, and almost $10 million adjusted for inflation over 4 years.
Just to add on to that, I know that it's a priority of the board and the administration. We value our staff. I don't think we could value our staff more. You all deserve multiple pull times the salaries that you earn. And it is a commitment that we, maintain a living wage, and frankly, there's no stockpiling anything, that it is a priority of the board to pass that through in every way possible, while maintaining the, a healthy budget for programs for our students. But it's certainly, obviously, the 87%, most important part of our budget. We can't do it without you, and hopefully salaries reflect that as we get the money from the state. But, as you probably know, we were in Olympia on Sunday and Monday, advocating, and it's all about money. And asking them also not to put more on our staff's plate without taking things off of it. But we're out there doing it, and it's trying to eke out every dollar, knowing that, the majority of it goes to staff. Because that's, and also I want to thank you all for, it's an unusual structure to have one union representing all of the different, places, but the dedication and care that you've had to each other to prop each other up in terms of ensuring that people are able to have living wages that has not gone unnoticed, and being willing to sacrifice for others at a greater need is appreciated. We've asked you all to tighten your belts for while the district, becomes more financially stable. We're getting there. We're making great progress. We need to keep advocating to get more. And as we are successful, you will see that.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a big answer.
It also,
At least for the next 2 years when I'm I'm 1 of 5.
it also was a great segue into the third question. That was incredible. So you had mentioned earlier that the school board's role is more at the policy level. On Monday, I was also at the Capitol lobbying for WEA. I ran into Dan out in the field. And we noticed that, we saw that you were out there with Fred and with students. It was really great to see that. So I was out there talking about an increase in special education as well as increase in paraeducator support to change the prototypical model so them get more pay. So we were wondering, it's kind of a two-part question. What do you see as the district's upcoming legislative priorities? And also, does the school board see any potential to collaborate with MIEA on those lobbying efforts?
I will. Do you want to talk about what we talked about on Monday, and then we can expand?
Yeah, so we also lobbied with some legislators about like the special education funding, and some of it involved like higher pay, obviously, for educators, so that more like teachers can get attracted and like stay in the district. And then some other things that we lobbied for were like for better bond passings and other levies so that we can get more money in the district and have more resources.
We've seen the success, and one of the things we talked about was you all took on a tremendously heavy lift with inclusive practices, and it's working. I'm sure you've heard the statistic. If you haven't, we had 4 grade levels. You had 4 grade levels of students with IEPs surpassing the state average for ELA this past year, and 2 grade levels in math surpassing of students with IEPs surpassing the state average for testing. So that it can't be done without you. It can't be done without inclusive practices. It can't be done without our paras and professional development. And, that's really the point that we were making is you gave us a $2 million increase. We still have a $4 million gap. And we need it, and it benefits our students.
And I will add with the policy and after learning how things work, that this session is almost over pretty much. They're still working, but I think that the biggest effort is going to be on the next cycle. So I think that this is where
you and us will have our priorities and see where we can go with partnerships to actually start doing something ahead of time and be very ready to for the next 2 years. I just think it's really important for us to be clear that Washington Education Association is the umbrella over our local union, Restaurant Education Association, and they are working equally as hard as all of you. And we have a lot of power. That's a lot of people who are members of Washington Education Association, and we really appreciate any partnership that we can create working together with you. So us all going out and just individually hitting this is not as strong as if we become a unified force moving into it. So thanks, Elizabeth, because she really played a role in what WEA is doing to get us up and in front. They really are bringing a lot of educators into this fold to go talk to legislators. So just know that we really are here. We're not giving this lip service. We understand that our state is failing us in this way. So we would like to be there with you.
And I think a lot of educators would be interested in it as well.
Yeah.
I want to throw it to Dan.
Yeah, so real quickly on the para-educator, what's proposed, the increase in wage, it's something that I personally, I believe the rest of the board supports a lot because I think it ties to what is a living wage. And recognizing that what a living wage is varies from area to area, and that it's important to be able to pay a living wage in order to attract and retain a diverse staff in districts such as ours. So yes, I think that it's a start for increase the para pay, and I think it ties more broadly, putting aside the perhaps I think more charged term regionalization and just focus on what's a living wage for a particular area.
Just, if we can talk more tomorrow about legislature, because on my list, probably on your list. You know, I know part of what will be interesting now that the cutoff date has happened is what bills are gonna fall off and which ones are gonna go together. And, you know, there's so many on prototypical school model or para staffing, or wait a second, maybe it's not just paras, it's office support and others. And so I'll get caught up on what the main push was from you and then where we are in those two tomorrow. I was just talking to Jen Flood, PTA advocacy, prior to this meeting. I had my meeting with her. They're getting ready to do a big push too. So we'll circle all of those up, especially now that yesterday is over.
Yeah, I think one of the strengths we do have is when we do common letter writing, when we write together, that's more powerful than me writing a letter, Fred writing a letter, the board writing. So.
Did I say 2 million? 200,000 in special education. Last year we increased, not 2 million.
Right.
I'm sorry, 200,000.
We got 2 million back from safety
2
net,
million from safety net, key number.
but still 4 million in the hole.
No, but you're absolutely right. I couldn't agree more with the focus from all of the, you know, letter organizations on special education funding last year really had an impact. We have a long way to go, but every step in that direction is a good thing.
Thank you.
All right, it's Andy Hamp. I have a question around the topic of open enrollment. And it's two parts. So the first one is I'm hoping to get your thoughts on that issue. And then secondly, have you considered opening enrollment for more Mercer Island employees that are on partial supplemental contracts, such as coaches that do not have regular certificated or classified positions?
Yes, we talk about it all the time. We are constantly looking at ways to serve our community better, first and foremost, and also attract new students. We have, following these linkage sessions, it's on our agenda about 7:15 tonight, or 7:30, 7:30.
7:30, whatever.
I'm looking at mine, where we are gonna be discussing open enrollment. The topic is, at this point right now, looking at grades 8 through 12 for next year, because we're looking at the impact of our high school students losing, because numbers matter in terms of filling classes and other programs. And we're watching, you know, our elementary schools at this point are fairly stable. But it's as small numbers of grades move up, it's gonna start impacting programming and courses. Because we offer according to what our students sign up for. So I'm gonna just kind of ask you to wait on answering kind of what our views are. I see Maggie Ty's hand, but just, we have a lot of learning to do and you're gonna see all of that because it's all in public. Where we're gonna get a presentation with some questions that we still have. But I can tell you that in general, we're very open and continuously have conversations about doing what we can to increase enrollment in our schools so that it best serves our students. And in ways that only, you know, minimize the negative impacts and maximize the positive impacts, and are always looking if people have suggestions. You know, coaches is one thing that we specifically have been bringing up as we expanded to city employees. No, it's really, I think, kind of the focus is, you know, we want to build community and we want to open, you know, first and foremost to members of our community who contribute. So why aren't they not benefiting as well? It's good for all of our students. Maggie, I saw your hand, right? Are you?
Yeah, you're not imagining it. I was just going to say that Dan specifically brought that suggestion up at the last meeting. And so that's something that we're hoping to hear more about tonight.
Yes, and looking at, you know, what is the lowest right now that we're going to be educated about, how many hours staff needs to work in order to be eligible for their student enrolling here, and we're going to be talking about all of that. So I'm going to shine you on a little bit, and I want to make sure that the board all has the information, and then we share the discussion. So stick around.
And the president, vice president in their meeting this morning, doing agenda setting. Tonight is more of a study session. We're gonna be bringing lots of information. It'll come up again on February 8th. So next Thursday, a week from tonight, it'll come up again in their general meeting.
And please provide feedback. We're looking for it from our staff, from the community. It's, you know, it's a big change. For those of us that weren't here when it occurred, so many of us were, but most were not. So we have our final choice students finishing out this year for the most part.
From the ones who originally came in, but then we have siblings who are still, but the first wave is coming.
So, you know, so many of us have gone through it, as have you. So we're gonna be looking for that feedback and ways to, if we do it in the best way possible.
I can jump in. And thank you, you guys have already touched on some of this already, the ask questions in relation to the financial status of the district. And we appreciate, Fred, the information that you shared in your presentation, going from school to school. And also understand the concern with the lack of funding from the state. What are the district's priorities in terms of that financial climate? You know, what are things that you guys are prioritizing looking at that?
As you know, it is a board policy to maintain ideally maintain an 8 to 10% fund balance. We don't, at least currently, have any desire to go beyond that. We believe that, you know, maintaining a fund balance of approximately 2 months' salary is appropriate. We really relied on it for COVID, being able to maintain staff and not cut like a lot of districts did. So we are building back by the end of the year. I know that Matt is confident that we're going to get to 5% back of fund balance. So we're still below where we need to be, but to have the healthiest financial district, but you know, doing it in a way where we're not sacrificing staff or programs along the way. So it's, I think the finance staff is doing a tremendous job keeping, you know, making appropriate and reasonable predictions in terms of enrollment and staff numbers and keeping us informed. That's the best way possible, but there is, I can tell you, there's no desire to be looking at 13, 14, 15% fund balances that in lieu of paying it forward in the appropriate ways. A healthy balance is, the board believes at this point in time, our policy is 8 to 10%, and that's where we believe we should be.
Thank you. Does the district have any creative solutions going, that they might employ to attract and retain staff in this current economy?
I mean, I think I think our team has done a great job of attracting new staff. We know as across the board with unions, as we need to make cuts, it tends to be the newer staff. It is the newer staff that goes. So, that has to be balanced out. I think, not only for, first and foremost, we need to maintain enrollment or, increase enrollment in the high school for programs, classes for our students. But it's also for our staff. The more students we have, the more staff we need and can fund. And so, that goes hand in hand. And you guys are the ones in the trenches doing it. You guys are the ones that have relationships with educators in other places. I don't know how many of you, I know many of our administrative team teaches at the university level. So that's a way I know a lot of them see it as a recruiting tool, because they get to know some up and comers. I'm sure some of you do that. I don't know specifics. I'd love to hear about it at some point. But you guys really are the experts in what draws staff to Mercer Island School District. So really would love the feedback in terms of what works, what doesn't work, what's effective. Really trying to be creative in terms of the bargaining process, in terms of giving, 5 half days or days that staff is released earlier, ways that don't necessarily make, when you can't give in dollars, how else can you get it? Because there's other ways that improve quality of life. So I know the bargaining team is very open to hearing those ideas. The board is certainly very open to hearing ideas. We brainstorm constantly, especially when you're talking about parameters for bargaining. So very open to learning. It's no idea is a bad idea. And please pass on your expertise. And I saw Dan's hand. No. Anyone else have any? No.
And thank you. The third question that I had, I think you guys already spoke to, which is the percentage of the fund that goes to staffing and having a desire to pay a living wage and support that. So thank you.
I just also want to piggyback on that to say, I really appreciate what I heard, which is that there is now an understanding for how important it is for people to have a living wage who are classified educational support staff. And hearing that at this point, prior to going into bargaining, is first for me, having been doing bargaining for a long time now. I really appreciate hearing that repeated a couple times, and also knowing that you're seeing that at the state level as well. That is one of the priorities of Washington Education Association. We've definitely shown over the past 8 or 9 bargains I've been involved with that this is MIEA's really big priority when we sit down at the bargaining table. So thank you for saying it. I really appreciate it. Also from Dan, I heard you say it as well. And truly, look forward to that discussion in bargaining. I don't feel like it's so much of a wall when I hear you saying those kinds of things. Thank you.
Well, and my question kind of piggybacks, so you mentioned wanting to hear from staff, and my question is gearing more to how do we attract and retain a more diverse population of educators? I'm gonna kind of flip my question around, because when we're talking about hearing from staff, I think, I'm still here, so I don't know for sure, that we offer an optional exit survey for staff members who are leaving the district. My question is, are staff members taking these surveys? And then do you, the board, have access to these exit surveys? Or what does happen to that information once it's been gathered? What do we know?
That's more operations on that side, so I can lean over towards HR. I think there's 2 types of exit surveys, because when I think about attracting and retaining staff, Particularly in declining enrollment, it's also about attracting and retaining families. Because if we're losing families and we're losing students, then we're gonna be losing staff because of that. So they go in tandem. So that's why the December 6th or 8th meeting, we reported out to the board on our exit surveys, particularly with our families. Not everyone take it, but we do take them seriously. We read through, we break it into charts and graphs, and we look at trends, which are some of the private schools people are going to. So we definitely do work with that information. And then Aaron on the HR side, with the exit surveys, I'll turn over to you.
Yeah, and we also do exit surveys of staff, for very similar reasons, and the result is similar in terms of we try to distill why people are leaving, where are they going. Often we've been through with the employees through their exit process, so we already know why. But it isn't not like a way that they can sort of be prompted by questions to give feedback as to their why. And then we look, sometimes it causes us, to reach back out to the staff member if they're leaving because they're dissatisfied. But by and large, what we've seen most recently are separations. I mean, some of them have been through the BRIC process. So that's a forced leave that we are causing. But we also have seen people who are moving or are retiring. And the other thing that we have seen is just with commutes being longer, people are choosing to take, if they're staying in the profession, because some people are also just leaving the profession altogether. We've seen that more post-COVID than before. But if they're staying in the profession and not moving out of the area, it's because they're choosing to go closer to where they already live. And often that's related to what we've seen, sort of family dynamics changing for them that have made being close to home more significant. But that's something that we do monitor. But if there is something where it's because some event happened or I'm dissatisfied, we do try to follow up and figure out what the problem might be.
So then my second part of the question, kind of bringing this back to, we struggle with retaining and hiring this more diverse population. What has the school board and what have we done as a district that's new and different than what we've done in the past? I know when I was hired 7 years ago, this was a question on my mind, and it was a question on our district even 7 years ago, and I don't know what we've changed other than just asking the question.
So yeah, I will say in terms of something concrete that's changed is to get more data in terms of how we compare. So one of the things that the board has asked for that's been provided and is helpful is seeing how we compare to other districts in the region when it comes to diversity across the board. Unfortunately, it seems that we're sort of in the norm. We think we can do better. There are a few districts that for whatever reason, Bellevue in particular seems to be a little bit above where other districts are at. And then in terms of spitballing what we can do, constrained, recognizing that we're constrained on the financial side. Part of it is communications. I mean, I think Fred has done a very good job with Ian in terms of, looking, for recruiting to making SEO searches. The other is talking about, are there mentor mentee programs we could offer, affinity groups for the staff that would create an even more welcoming environment and would distinguish us from other districts, perhaps.
Along the line, understanding that professional development is crucial for a happy staff, as well as like what Jan said, in terms of mentoring. I know that Erin and her team work really hard to think of new ideas. But really, and I'm sure you provide feedback, but please do, because you were the ones that are impacted. And if there's things that we could be doing better, providing better, then we certainly are interested in doing that. It is a priority to retain. It's not just lip service, and I think that we have a veteran staff overall. So I know we're doing something right, but that doesn't mean we can't always be doing better and better. We know that we have a challenging parent community that takes up a lot of time for staff. And And so, you know, kind of going back to Alice's first question about public input, you know, please feel free to come in and share when you're hearing conversations about inclusive practices or, equity-based grading or, a certain curriculum and how is iReady going? And us parents don't understand the amazing skills that you all have in terms of being able to teach 30 students, 20, hopefully not 30, but 30 students who have who are at very different levels, and you've been doing it for years and you do it well. And come give us examples, because our parents aren't in the classroom. We're fortunate that we get to do site visits and see some of it in action, but it's only a little bit. But please come share that with us. If you're hearing pushback from the community that, you know, our teachers can't do this and our staff, we need more of this in order to do it. If you agree, please come tell us. If you disagree and believe that it's happening and, you know, we don't want a bombardment of parents in the classroom because it's a little disruptive, but, for learning, but, you know, please come share with us what you believe is working, what isn't working. If you, what you need from us, what you need from our parent community, so that we can all work together to support our students.
Thank you guys for the answers. It's, a lot of your thoughts are the same as what I heard, a better mentorship program. Unfortunately, the commute, which nobody can help, but that is a tricky one. And then just better pay, which is another thing that we're in a tricky situation. So thank you guys for your thoughts on it.
And I think also this is another topic that at the bargaining table, when we were talking about things that may not cost as much money, this mentor idea is something that we brought up at a bargaining table over and over, and we've sort of been chipping away at creating a more robust, but I think there's lots of room for us to build that out. And it's also something Washington Education Association and our UNICEF Council are both working on right now, which is sort of that affinity group idea that I heard referenced a minute ago. So how to support our BIPOC educators in more robust ways. So those groups are out there, and I know this is another one of those areas where we feel like we can collaborate with the district and support the council.
In robust ways and in what's meaningful for the people impacted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was nervous, but that was all of my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think anybody else on our executive board have a question that you wanted to ask that you didn't have an opportunity or some clarification?
I have a question. So like this year, in this SEB thing, we had pretty substantial increases in our health insurance. Coming from the classified side of it, and knowing how every dollar is mattering for some of our classified members. I just wonder if is there something that we can do to either get more information out if somebody is in a poverty wage situation, what are their options? Maybe they don't use SEB, but getting that information to our employees, maybe before an open enrollment occurs, so that maybe a less costly option might be selected instead of going for a SEB plan, because maybe the SEB plan isn't right for them. And they don't know that.
Do you mean choosing something outside of what the state SEB offers?
Correct. So maybe it would be an insurance through the state.
Unfortunately, that got taken away from us when we went to SEB. So we used to be able to broker on our own, and that's the unfortunate thing with SEB, is we don't have that option as a school district anymore.
Right.
And it was very unfortunate for our district,
Right.
you know,
We don't like.
we had done a really, really good job of going through that process.
But it gets back to this, there are some of our workers that I know it's every penny that they're looking at right now, and I'm watching their faces when they know that they're making another $1,000 a year of payments that they can't afford, and it's heartbreaking to me to think that we have to get information to people as to what more efficient ways of doing things are. I mean, if SEB's not gonna work for these people, what can they do and how can we help them?
Well, maybe more information on that AppCare plan in the state of Washington for people that are not being employed at a level where SEB covers them. having the district provide information about, these are some other ways you can get insurance.
Yeah, and I don't
That's the last
know
thing we want.
who they are, and then, you know, not knowing who they are, we don't know what the qualifications. Aaron, did you have something that you wanted to weigh?
Yeah, a couple things, I mean, the district is no longer in control of when or how we receive information. We share it as quickly as we have it to employees, so to the extent the concern is when staff received information as to the premium rates, et cetera, related to SEB insurance, that's sort of beyond our control. We can give the feedback to SEB, but we don't have control over it. I think the other thing to note is whether or not a staff member who's SEB eligible accesses the insurance, the district still pays. And that's something that I don't know that everyone is aware. So there is still a cost, which is also different than our prior plan, which is another issue or our prior model when we could broker our own and negotiate our own rates for employees. With respect to Apple Pay, we're always available in HR should people have questions about SEB, but that's not our area of expertise. And we are not insurance providers or brokers. So, and we also don't know what staff members' overall incomes are in terms of their family income and what have you. So while I think to the extent you were talking about Apple insurance, that's for people who are below a certain income level, they can access insurance through the state. But we wouldn't necessarily want to presuppose that a staff member is in that situation.
Is it something that we could add to an orientation packet though, that just says, you know, if your hours are under a certain number of hours, this is one place where you could look? Like, could we give them some of that info in that way?
If staff members are not SEB eligible, they sometimes ask like, where might I get benefits?
Right.
It actually comes out more often with those who are only have supplementals.
Right.
And that type of thing, and we have, again, you can be privately insured, or there is also options through the state if you qualify, and we'll provide them sort of where they can go.
Okay, I think that answers the question.
So, real quickly, I mean, an observation, I think, you know, it shows with SEB that the state always isn't the ideal solution. And I think if it's something, I realize it's a much larger organization, but if WEA wanted to take up, I mean, I think from the school board perspective, you know, we'd certainly support that. But recognizing that, you know, state solutions aren't always best.
Yeah, and just so you know, WEA has sort of taken on the whole sub thing. They've been actively trying to figure out some of the problems with it and how to work that through. So it is something that WEA is definitely working on too. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Look at that, we're timely.
I think as board directors, I've done a lot of talking. Is there anything that any of you want to say that you haven't?
I think that we are also newer.
Yeah.
But just opening again the invitation for you to reach out to us if we're really here to listen to you and we want to hear what, how can we support the district?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, just echoing what Christina's saying, like, we'd love to hear, you know, from you guys directly and again, just to, you know, express our appreciation for the role of our educators in our children's lives. Like, I've been sort of, you know, uniformly just so bowled over by the educators that my own children have come across. And we feel really grateful in this district to have the educators that we have. You know, the teachers, the drivers, everyone who's in the system. And, you know, just want to express that again.
One of the things, as this board is coming together, that I was gonna share with you tomorrow, Sally, but I had a keen ear for it tonight, and that is, there is a really concerted shift by this board to talk about staff and not talk about teachers, and recognizing that it's all of our staff together. And I hope, just as you were listening for some things, I hope that you heard that too, that we're always talking about staff being mindful that it takes all of our employees and staff members and working together for our students. And yesterday in the superintendent teaching and learning advisory, to hear the 3 students who were there all talk about the impacts that teachers and nurses and bus drivers and custodians and food service are making in their lives, and then to hear parents say, my kid's coming back from college saying, we're way more prepared than others, you know, and that begins in kindergarten. For some of them, it's preschool and it goes all the way through in that preparation, but appreciate everyone's partnership and coming tonight to
Yeah.
meet with all of us.
Yeah, and I just want to end with saying that what we all realize is that paramount to our success as educators and learners is our abilities to work together in partnership in this system. And it needs to be built on mutual respect that we've seen tonight, integrity and the trust. And this common goal that we all have of providing the best education possible, the best environment possible for our students to learn here, but also for our educators to work here. So thank you very much for tonight. I appreciate what I heard and saw tonight. I think there's a different energy on the board, which I absolutely see. I also have appreciated seeing our students brought forward at these board meetings and recognized for all of the student successes. That just, as a parent and community member here, I just explodes my heart for work.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll be in recess till 6:15. Oh, wait. Oh, was that a wave goodbye, Dan? Okay.
I meant as opposed to my hand out.
All right. Recess till 6:15. All right, there you are. All right, so coming back in from recess, and we are now at our Schools Foundation School Board Linkage meeting. And I just want to, welcome you all here and, let's, go around and do introductions. So I'm Deborah Lurie, I'm, president of the school board. I said sixth year before, it's the beginning of my seventh year on the board, and I also have a high school senior.
I'm Jody Lee and I'm new to the school board and I have a high school sophomore and a college sophomore.
Christina Martinez, I am also new to the board and I have a seventh grader and a 10th grader.
Maggie Pye?
Yeah, I'm Maggie Ty Tucker, and it's my sorry, now you've made me question my years.
No,
It's
no,
the
no,
beginning
you
of
were
my
right.
fifth year on the board, and I have two college sophomores and one 11-year-old who will be starting at the middle school next year.
Dan Glow, it's my third year on the board, and I have a sixth grader and an eighth grader, both at IMS.
Asha.
I'm Asha Warner, I'm a senior and I'm a student board rep.
I'm Ava, I'm a junior and I'm also a student board rep.
Matt Sullivan, Executive Director of Finance and Operations.
Karen Badby, Executive Director of Compliance, Legal Affairs, and Increase.
Yeah.
Michelle.
Michelle, I know what I'm
Ian Henry, Communications Coordinator.
I'm Bridget Olson. I'm the development manager for the Schools Foundation, and I've been here almost 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm Tammy Chu, I'm the executive director of the Mercer Island Schools Foundation, and I am on my 9th year and have 2 kids who went through the district, now in college, graduating this year.
Wow.
Hi, I'm Julie Shea. I have a 7th grader and a 5th grader, and I'm one of the many board members on the MISF. So happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Oh, hi.
Yes, Karen, introduce yourself. We just went around the room and, yeah.
Hi, I'm Karen Vanderwood. I am on the foundation. I'm a new member this year. When I have my name taken in front. So it's nice to see all of you. I know Deb.
We used to work together.
Opposite each other.
Well.
Oh, but she's a wonderful person. So it's great to see you. So I have a 5th grader at West Mercer and an 8th grader at
Andrew Johnson, I'm the technology director for the district.
Fred Rundle, Superintendent.
Well, welcome. This is what I didn't say this earlier, but this is one of my favorite nights. People that, stakeholders that provide such amazing services to our students. And, we have, I think, the best staff around, and the support that the School Foundation gives our staff, and in turn our students, is what makes us who we are. So we couldn't do it without you guys. And rather than kind of talking about what you do, I'm gonna let you do that. And then kind of hand it over for your update.
Perfect. I think both you, Jody, and Christina's been in many meetings with me. You probably both know what the foundation does. We raise money for all sorts of things. We usually raise money working off of a priority funding list from the district. And it includes everything from curriculum to fine arts to professional development. The list just goes on and on. The foundation has been around since 1981. 2 dads of students started it, and it's been around a long time, and I think we are probably nearing $28 or $29 million since inception, which is incredible. I was on the board of the foundation when my kids were in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd. And we had Penny Yantis, who was our first executive director at that time, and I came back to work for her in 2015, and I told her I'd give her a year. I said, 1 year, I'll help you out, and 9 years later, and she's not here anymore. But so really what I want to do, and if you guys got this sheet here, I want to skip over the top piece of it there. I'm gonna go back to that, but I did not want to bury that at the end because that's really important to me. So I'm just gonna give you a quick update on what we've been doing and what we're doing this year and a little bit about, I got a request from Dan and Deborah, asking for a few specific things that might be helpful, and I thought it might be helpful to go away with this. And if you want anything else from us, we're transparent, we would, anything you need, we're happy to provide. We have student ambassadors this year. Yep, last year was our first year with student ambassadors. We have 3. This year we have 5, and it was very difficult to choose. There were quite a few applicants, but we narrowed it down to 2 sophomores, 2 juniors, and a senior. And our student ambassadors have been fantastic. They help us with just awareness about what we fund at the high school. They promote our senior scholarship, which is currently open for applications. They do volunteer recruitment and help us and come call at the phone-a-thon, and they attend the breakfast and are completely involved in that. Community outreach, they've been at different, places that we have been, they can't go during school, but they have been to the farmer's market with us. They, if it's summer celebration and we've got a booth, they come. So they've been great. This year, we tried to do it last year. It was the first breakfast that we had back in person after COVID, and spring was a little crazy, so it didn't happen. But we started the process doing a student focus group. And so my student ambassadors right now are getting that together. We're kind of taking the planning that we did last year, moving it forward, and we've just started kind of getting that back together. They want to, we all want to do a student focus group with the high school students, and talked to Fred about this last year. It didn't happen, but we've got Nick involved too, and identifying, the right people to be involved in it. So we'll give you more information on that, as we get closer, for sure. I think it's gonna happen in May. We're hopeful. This year, we started out the fall with we have 2 campaigns. I'm gonna just say this, I know most of you probably know this, but we have 2 campaigns a year, our fall All In for Kids and our spring for schools. Fall goes from September 1st, when the fiscal year starts for the district, and we follow the fiscal year to December 31st, even though it's fall, it goes all the way through. We have a goal for fall, and that goal is, the district has identified learning services, puts together, what is needed, where can we help? And we are given a priority funding list, and the district goes through that. Usually Fred will come, or learning services, and go through that with us. We vote on it, and it's, it's approved by us to raise money for that. This year, it was $463,040. We raised this fall from September 1st through December 31st, $559,590. So, which is usually kind of where we are. We had a little bit of a slow start. The phone-a-thon wasn't as robust as it has been, I think. It's just been really interesting to watch, before COVID. I feel like it's a before COVID, and then after COVID. And we're just seeing a lot of different trends here. But we had our holiday shopping auction, our holiday online auction. That was our very first time we did that. We've run 2 auctions before during COVID in place of the breakfast. And those were really successful. And it's a fairly easy thing for us to do. So we thought it would be a nice addition, and nobody really does anything in December, and it was just a good month to just add a little bit. I think I have a little bit further down, I did put it on here. So we raised from that auction $43,047, which is good. And if you look down, and I put the 2 other spring auctions that we held, those were in place of the breakfast. So, that's nowhere near what we raised, when you have 600 people sitting in a room, which in 2019 was our last breakfast, and we had standing room only. We did not have enough tables. We could not. So it was kind of standing room in the back. People showed up who didn't register, and it was the biggest we had ever had, which was, I think, over 600 people. So the auctions during COVID they raised, it was, I don't know what else we would have done. We did a Springfield Schools Showcase, which was virtual for 2 years. And I think we did really well. I mean, even though those showcases were it's not 600 people in a room, but over time, we shared it, and it got the viewership. But we did, if you look on the back, if you flip to the back, you can see kind of where we were. So in 2018-19, that was our last breakfast, and we raised a little over 1.2 million. That was for the whole year, so that's everything. In 2019-20, that was the year that we could not have a breakfast, closed down in March, and we did not have an auction that year, but we still ended up over $1 million, which was great. 2020, 2021 was the year we ended up having a virtual event, and we were surprised that we actually, with everything going on, that we raised that much, but it was 1.155. The schools opened up a little bit, right, in 2021, 22, and it went down a little bit, and if we look, I think I've looked at these enrollment numbers, and as Fred's kind of doing the roadshow there, that really does make sense. We dropped over 7%, I think, that year, enrollment. And I think the first year, and this is just talking to the community about this and board members, that 2021, it closed most of the year. But I think people were still giving and trying to help. And then I think people left, and I think it got old. And they were just a little more disgruntled than they were that first year. And that little drop there, I think that might have been a little bit of it. And then last year, we did our breakfast, and we raised 1.115. And that was, I expected it to be a little higher, but we're really happy with that. We're happy with that. I think we had a lower attendance at the breakfast. I think phone-a-thon, that was fantastic. We raised about 550,000 in the fall. We didn't have that auction, but the breakfast, I think we need to just bring it back. And I think last year was kind of a rebuilding year. We had about 350.
I think so, yeah.
About 350 people attend, and it was fantastic. But when we left it in 2019, we had 600 people. It was, I think Fred and I have talked about this. It was a cool thing to go to. Everybody wanted to go. The room was full of men and women. People would come before work. It was just kind of a business breakfast, great for networking. You would see everybody. So we're just gonna keep pushing it and bringing it back, and we've got some great plans this year. So I kind of skipped around there a little bit. We've also right now, any questions, if you guys have any questions, I didn't skip more than I was going to, but if you have questions, just ask. We have a Valentine's program going on right now. We do this every year, and it's just something because we have always had a little agreement with the Youth and Family Service to stay away from their breakfast, and then they kind of stay away from ours. Theirs is February. So we've always had this open February where not much is going on, even though our campaign really starts January 1st. We do such a huge push at the end of the year that people need a break from us. We do a lot. So we give them January and kind of start planning. And then we started a few years ago, it's just built every year, this Valentine's program where if people donate in honor of their teacher and it's under $65, we will send a card to that teacher. And then if they donate over $65, we have actually a gift. And this year we partnered with Kitchen and Market. We have a scone mix and some jams and lemon curd and candy, and it's just wrapped up pretty, and every teacher gets one of those. And it's just grown. I mean, it started out small and it has really grown. Last year,
Just like 305, I think.
300, we sold 305, but how much did we make last year?
A little bit, like 18,000.
This is Bridget's baby, and she does a good job on this. It goes up every year. About how much?
About 18.
18 or 19, yeah. So it's a good little chunk right when we need it most, when we can't really do anything yet. So that's going on right now. We also have our senior scholarship, which we do every year. We up the amount for the new you guys. It used to be 1,500, and we upped it to 3,000, I think 2 years ago. And we usually get, I don't know, somewhere between
you know, 15 and maybe 25 applicants. And, you know, what we really ask of these applicants is, you know, tell us about a foundation funded program that has really impacted you. And, you know, we kept all of these. And I was thinking before the meeting, you know, that's something you guys might like to see some of. These impact statements from these students is incredible. And we use them in our marketing, but really, you know, it's incredible. And we have our board members interview the candidates. I do too, and then choose, and it's just been hard to choose. But, you know, they're fantastic kids. Last year it was Ren Novak, the year before, it was Daniel, Settle, yeah. So we just had, you know, just an array of really amazing students. And they all agree when they apply that we can use their impact statement. So I'm gonna put that together and I'll send it to,
You
I'll
know,
send it
who
to you.
was the year before that?
What's that?
The year before that?
Yes, I
Ethan.
should. Oh, Ethan, that's right, Ethan Schwartz. Deb loves Ethan because she's related to Ethan. I will say we did not know that.
No,
We did
no,
not know
no.
that had nothing to do with
Nothing
it.
to do with it.
Yeah, and then we had Gian, I'm trying to remember his last name now, was in there too, just wonderful kids. I mean, it is really difficult to choose. And then then we have an art contest going on, which Julie is just she's an artist and also a doctor. She has a lot of things going on, but she has an art gallery, but she, you know, do you want to talk about the art?
Oh, yeah,
contest?
so,
She's handling this for us.
Yeah, so really excited to be part of this. And so for the breakfast, we'll have the program. So the winner of the art contest will have their art on the program of the breakfast. And I think we're choosing about how many winners?
We have three winners, and they, yeah.
And the topic is your favorite thing about school.
Yes, we've already got some. And the kids, some of them.
What are you hearing?
You know, we're not sure what it is, but they're super cute. They're all super cute. Yes, right.
Lunch, recess.
Kindergarten, first grade, so we love them. And, you know, we do not choose based on, you know, someone who is going to become an artist as a lifetime, you know, career. But the other two are on the back of the program. So, you know, the second and third, and then we also have them displayed on easels, big blown up, you know, and then what we did last year, and I don't know if you remember this. We
Yeah,
took
the little
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had like a combination of the kids who joined the contest for the breakfast, and
Everyone.
also some of the reflections entry, we made little table cards with the kids on.
That was our decoration on the table. So everybody who actually submits will have their artwork on tables, so it's kind of fun. And so then some of the donor trends that we've kind of seen, you know, we are still about 90% parent donations. That's where most of our money is coming from. We have a rock star who is our sponsorship chair, Jill Ashton, and I wish she was here, but she has led our sponsorship group for the last 3 years, and we have just grown and grown and grown, and we are getting off-island businesses, and we are getting builders giving big amounts, and it's incredible. So that's a big part. Let's see, we had last year, we had 33 angels, which are the over 5,000 donors, and they comprise an angel fund in the spring, so that all of them, everybody who gives 5,000 and more is considered an angel donor, and that is a fund that we use to incent the community to give at the $1,000 level. So we say that fund is used to match every $1,000 gift. And we have wavered just a little bit, but every year it's really about 33 to 35 angels in the community who give, and that means 5,000 or more. We've had $20,000 donors, we've had, you know, one year we had a $300,000 donor, we've had a $100,000 donor, we've had a, let's see, we've had some big ones, those are the two biggest, but, you know, that people just, you know, when they feel like giving, they give. So, yeah, we've been lucky to have, usually when someone becomes an angel, they continue on until their kids are gone, some go a little bit longer. That's kind of what we've got going on. Any questions?
This is great. I'm wondering, just based on my experience of being the Youth and Family Services Board and organizing the Van Booster auction, I felt like we had a big COVID flag with our attendance at those, at our fundraisers.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, because of like,
Yeah.
people just not feeling the vibe of being in a room full of people.
Totally.
So I wonder, but it's going up and up and up, so I'm
It's going-
feeling so confident about this breakfast, I feel like it's gonna.
I am too, and
like-
Laura Oberto and I have
Yeah,
just compared notes, and definitely, I mean, you got, right now.
like our
they
breakfast
are-
is sold out right now, I think, or nearly,
What's that?
our breakfast is sold out right now, that you can kind of service.
Well,
Or
the last
during, really.
email I got on Monday, you were almost at capacity,
Yeah,
is what it said.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's great, and I think it's at the community center, I think that's 550 maybe, it's pretty close, so, yeah.
One of us
we're
has not been going to meetings like she should, so.
We are hopeful, and I know we can bring it back. It is a really, really fun event. That event, have you been?
I went last year, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Have you been, Christina? Yeah, it's a wonderful event. Yeah, so we're hopeful for sure. We're gonna do everything we can to, the PTAs all have a table. Youth and Family Service has a table because we do one for them. Every board member has a table. We've got some community stakeholders who do every year. Yeah.
Oh, Dan?
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I wanted to begin by thanking you for everything that MISF does and the contributions and the hard work. It's greatly appreciated. Sort of thinking outside the box and just spitballing a little bit, what opportunities, if any, do you see for perhaps in-kind donations? I know Julie kindly, when it came to gallery space for PTA reflections, has hosted that in years past. But whether it might be musical venues for the band or orchestra, or looking sort of forward on the horizon to the rise of AI and ed tech, and perhaps pilot programs where we would get free licenses from companies that are located here in order to pilot new technology. I mean, just sort of thinking outside the box. That's one, sort of in-kind donations from individuals or from businesses. And then two, if there's anything in specific planned with respect to Mary Waite, or if that's being addressed by the Swim Booster Club.
That is actually a good question, so two parts there. We, in the past, have had people want to donate a piano and want to donate, I think one year there was a car, this is many, many years ago, and we were not set up to handle that kind of stuff, but would that kind of donation, if it was time and expertise or someone coming in or a venue, would that be something that would go through the foundation? Or would that just be a donation of, I don't know if that would go through the foundation, if someone's donating a venue for the band, if it were, I don't know where, but, a venue, would that just be, I mean, how, what do you think?
It could, I mean, that we're kind of getting definitely into, I don't want to get over my skis, Director Sullivan here with that, but there's board policy for accepting gifts in certain amounts and bringing it to the board versus not. It could go through the boosters of a particular group as well that are set up. The auditors definitely like to see it to go through. Coming directly to the district is a little harder than that, but thoughts on?
No, that's correct. It's obviously easier if it goes through the foundation.
I mean,
for us.
we're happy to do it. We just,
Yeah.
since I have been here, there were two donations one was a piano, one was a car, and Patty did not, we were not set up at that time to do it, so she just said no, and kind of forwarded them on, I think the piano went to the Boys and Girls Club or something. But no, we're willing to do it. I haven't had a request to do that, but if it helps the district, I don't know that we have, would that be, are you asking, Dan, if we would work with the district to identify needs and then go after them?
Yeah, just thinking particularly, as I said, whether it's venues for live performances that might be unique experiences and opportunities for children that are owned by Islanders, or on the licensing front in particular. And this would be having to work in tandem with the administration and Ann Dreves. If there's opportunities to get free in-kind trial licenses, particularly for emergent companies that might be coming out of some of the local incubators, like Y Incubator, and forging unique partnerships that don't really exist, I think commonly, but thinking of non-cash contributions that might be quite significant.
Yeah, no, we are willing to work with the district on that if it helps, you know, to go through the foundation for sure. Absolutely.
There have certainly been early startups in the education space that we have partnered with over the years and have had some, especially in the early on, you know, either next to nothing or very cheap options for that. I'm trying to think, I think School Data Solutions, when they were first starting off, we were kind of a pilot district for them.
Magic School's another example.
Magic
They're
School.
rolling out and we're just part of their, it's their innovative program is what they call it, where they've actually just charged a small setup fee, but aren't charging us for the actual usage so that we can pilot and see.
Yeah.
I do know that one of, at least the boosters that I've been involved with really benefit from Microsoft, Amazon, where they donate for employee volunteer hours. So I don't know if, you know, with our volunteers, especially in the elementary schools, are able to submit those hours where it could go to the school's foundation. I don't know if that's.
We have you know, we did that a lot at the Boys and Girls Club. Every coach who was with a company who did that, we really got a lot of money there. Haven't seen as much come through here, but we don't, for the foundation, we don't have as many volunteers. You know, lots of times they're students, but we do have a board member. One of our board members counts up every time she's at a board meeting, whatever she's doing, she gets paid for that. It's still the foundation, but yes, yeah.
It really benefits the booster club.
Really, yeah. So we are very open to, whatever is needed, we can figure that out.
Also, like at the holiday auction, so like I donated my gallery as a venue, so, you know, like maybe people can donate their venue for some concert.
Absolutely.
And then you can put that into the auction and people can bid on that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. For sure. Mary Waite, we did get another big gift this year. Well, it was a $5,000 gift that went towards Mary Waite this year. But I think Julie Matt give you a check already. I think the district has all the Mary Waite money already. I'm pretty sure.
I'll check with Kate.
So we don't have any left on our books. We wanted to send it over to the district because they are handling what's happening at Mary Waite.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I just wanted to say thank you for the creative fundraising and especially love the involvement of the student ambassadors. Like, I just think that's fantastic. So thank you for everything you've done.
Oh, it is. They're fantastic and just a good voice to have for sure.
Going back from Mary Waite for a second, I know I frequently at Luther Burbank Park, and one of the typical things is doing bricks with someone's names at the playground at Luther Burbank. Is there anything in the works for that you're aware of, either through MISF or otherwise, when it comes to Mary Waite Pool?
I love that idea, and we've talked about that in the past. Our boards have, I think the talk was, is there somewhere at the high school that we could do something like that? And is there a project that it could, kind of a mini, big idea project that we could raise money for? And, for that, you've got a brick. Mary Waite, it's a great idea. We could do something like that, but we also need kind of a way to market that. And I think that would work better if it were something being funded, a little bit bigger item being funded, if there's a need.
As we get into this continued conversation around a bond and a potential bond, and we start looking at what a project, how it might come together, or in the Mary Waite example, assuming that we're going to get the grant and everything goes through from King County, we'll be looking at, upwards of $4 million in upgrades to the Mary Waite Pool. Maybe there's something else that we want to do, and then that's where we could look into something like that. So getting you connected with Brandy as we're moving forward.
Yeah, a lot of schools have done things like that, whether it's a installation of artwork that has names on it, you know, somewhere on the campus or a wall on the campus. It's hospitals do it, everybody does it.
Yeah.
But that would be, might be a really neat idea for Mary Wade if there's something additional.
Right.
Yeah.
And there is, with the $4 million, $2 million from our district has been sort of earmarked so far for, out of our long range capital facilities budget for improvements. And then, as Fred said, with the 2 million matching from, is it King County? So yeah, so it's going to be a much nicer, improved facility, and seems like it might be a natural point to build on that and get some, more one-off large donations, particularly from people that are currently active, in the swimming and diving community or have historically been.
Yeah.
How can we support you?
There's 3 things that you can do to support us, and I'm telling you, I say this every year, all of you. Some of you are out of town, maybe, but the biggest things you can do to support the foundation are, number 1, follow us. We are on LinkedIn and Facebook, and we do share grants. We share things that we're funding. We really, I shared with every single one of my friends. I am so aged out now that I go through my list of Facebook people and I don't know anybody who's, it's hard. So, all of you who still have kids in the school, all you do is, how to do this. You go to the Facebook, the Mercer Island Schools Foundation Facebook page and invite, and it will take you to your list of friends, and then you just click. And it will just send the invite, say, Jody invited you to follow the Schools Foundation. And that would be fantastic. We ask our board to do the same thing. We are also on LinkedIn. And that's newer for us, but we're on LinkedIn and we are posting on LinkedIn. So please follow us on LinkedIn and, share with your communities that we are, out there. And I think if people can see what we're funding, it helps. And that's where we're sharing the most. The second thing that you can do to really help us out would be to attend the Phone-a-thon. Come, join us, make calls with us, invite your friends, bring a group. I think it's great for our community volunteers to see our school board is there, we are there. In a past life, I think that well before COVID, we had our city council there. We had, the mayor would come. It's gotten a little different. I think that over the last 2 years, we've had mostly student callers and they've been fantastic. But we really need, our parents to come back and help. So that is another thing that in the fall, each fall during our Phone-a-thon, if you would come for one night, make calls with us. If you're really adverse to making calls, there's other things you can do, but the calls, it's great to talk to the community. And then the third thing, and we will sign you up tonight if you'd like to really help us out, Bridget has a pen, is host a table at our breakfast of each one of you. That's 5 of you. I don't know, Maggie, are you in town? But you might
Can you
not.
remind me of the date?
It's April 30th this year. It's the end of April. We pushed it back because of Passover 1 week. So it's Tuesday, April 30th. And if each one of you could take a table, that's 5 more tables and 50 more people that we have. And I know all of you.
I'm in town.
What's that? You're in town?
I'm in town, yes.
Oh, good. We'll sign you right up. No, maybe.
Okay.
But honestly, if you can do that, that would be fantastic. You should be there anyway, and I know you all have your communities. And so, you can let us know now, or you can let us know later. But those are really 3 things. Okay, Deb's in. Yeah. Sign her up, Maggie. Yeah, okay. Just let us know, we will be after you. But it does help, and, it's great for you, you're at school board, we are, our community is supporting our schools, and, it'd be great to have you there.
So, and I don't know if this exists now or not, because I've been in the different role, as you know.
Yes.
Is there like a spreadsheet or something that it's like a diagram that we can show people what each role is when we're asking to join us, and why it's important to come to the foundation compared to I already donated to the PTA, or I already donated to the YSFA. So I know that the PTA was also thinking of doing like a map or something that it was easy. So when we invite people,
Yes.
it is clear to say like this is why it's important, and this is what school gets from the state, and this is what each of the other communities do for the
Yes.
parents in school, and
Yes.
what we fund and those type of things. So
We do have something that we can send you that you
Yes,
can
thank you.
use.
and
We make it very easy. We give you an invite, we give you all the information you need on why people should attend, what it is, what is the breakfast, what's happening at the breakfast. We can give all of that to you. Yes, maybe.
send it to me, and then.
Okay.
And
Yes.
PTA,
Yes.
Debbie Burke is working on that exact document with
Yeah.
it is with Ian and myself right now, honestly. It's hung up with us probably, so we're giving feedback, it's really on me. And then we plan on, and it will have, boosters, PTA, schools foundation for new families, existing families to know. And then each group has their own flyer too that says, learn a little bit more about exactly what we do. So we're working on that exactly.
And in different languages to the other communities.
It is very confusing as a new parent.
Yeah.
It is, every year.
And I will say that for people who have not attended education in the US and or different school districts to the school district, it is something that they need to understand why it's important.
Yeah. I mean, it's very cultural too. There's, for sure, there's, different ways to ask for a donation. Yeah. So we will, yes, I'll get you something for sure. Yeah. Love that too.
One thing that is, I think, there's the donations that people want to see that go directly to something that benefits one of our students, and that's always really important. But I always talk about the indirect benefit of the foundation, and that is if dollars are going into the foundation that are coming to the school district, then those are dollars that we can divert somewhere else that we're not paying for. Obviously, we were down in Olympia explaining where they're already falling short. And the foundation can't bridge that entire hole. However, when we're able to spend foundation dollars on a curriculum adoption, that we can spend money instead on perhaps a coach or a classroom teacher or something else to implement those things. And I know that doesn't resonate with all of our donors, and I totally understand why, but I'm always trying to push that message that every dollar into the foundation back to the district can be spent either right on something, or it can free us up to do something, because our buckets are so restrictive on how we can spend money. And when it comes in through the foundation, the latitude is really appreciated. So I'm always trying to push that and explain that, and just appreciate all of the partnership. And I will see you on my agenda tomorrow.
Video.
Just an idea, but I'm not still signing up for tables. Because all my network are hosting tables. So that's my biggest problem, but maybe partner with the district and saying like all those new families, especially those that come at the middle of the year, if I can reach out and have them in my table, I will be happy to do that.
Yep.
And then I can host the tables, but otherwise.
No problem.
I don't know how.
I think it would be wonderful to ask the new family for sure. We can get you the list.
And that is
right.
right. I will be
We
happy
have
to
it.
do that. Or international families, I will be, great. Okay, then.
So you're saying you're willing to host, you just need some assistance and.
I just know the names and I can call them, invite them, and especially those who might be either newer because they came in the middle of the year, or international families that might be intimidated on how it works, and they that I know that way too, so I can help them out too. Great, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Any questions for my board or Bridget? Or for us? We want to thank you guys for everything you do. It's a job. It's a big job. And this district is pretty amazing because of what you do. So thank you.
And thank you. With you, yes, yes.
I know, Karina, do you want to introduce yourself? Because
Sorry.
yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
My name is Karina, right on the board from these guys.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. thank you for everything you guys do.
Thank you.
All right.
Is that good?
Yes, thank you so much. All right, we will be in recess until 7.
Yeah, and then because Jamie's here, so we can go right.
Perfect.
Oh, no, she's still. Oh,
Okay, so.
Deborah, it's right on target. What? Yeah, I say softball too, but. No, I. Great, but I'm sorry.
Abusive board director, making children crawl.
Yeah, we did it.
The park can have me at that time.
Yes, so starting.
When was that?
This was David.
Yes, she has a mohawk. They think it's there.
Actually, one more.
Oh, no. Alrighty, gang, let's call us back, recess, it is 7:10-ish. And we are talking about open enrollment. Great.
So this is gonna just kind of be an ongoing process. Last week, I kind of presented to you as a board, just some really early thoughts that I was having. Director Lurie and Director Glowitz and myself during agenda planning had a chance this morning to talk a little bit more and really start to kind of maybe calendar this a little bit. So tonight is really an opportunity for us to bring in some of that information that you started asking questions on last week. Some that we're anticipating that might be questions, and we don't have all of them answered, but rather than waiting for one big event, I think giving you information in small bits along the way might just help with the overall process. So as I had mentioned when MIEA was here, next Thursday, we'll take up this topic again more in an open meeting that, not this isn't open, but in one of your regular meetings. But tonight, building off of the presentation that I had shared with you last week, Jamie Prescott has put together, Director Prescott has put together additional contextual information. Again, we're not expecting for any movement on direction. We have lots of information we need to do, but this is more of just information. For the past 6 years now, 7 years, 6 years, 6 years, Director Prescott, part of her responsibilities have all been on choice transfer. So she's been managing the choice transfer process for the school district. Before that was Jennifer Wright, and works with Nuri Lencina on this. And so any new choice transfer that's coming in from anyone in the state starts off with Nuri and Jamie. So she's going to take us through kind of a 101 of what is choice transfer, what are some of the parameters, and then we've started to answer some of your questions. So I'll turn it over to you, Director Prescott.
Okay, a quick clarification, did you want to put up your slide first or did you want to? Okay. Sounds good. So, Fred, do you want to, you want me to cover this stuff too?
Well, I'll just, this was where we left off at the last meeting, where I had said that I think the elementary, what we had heard from our community is leave the elementaries alone from the perspective of new construction, from the perspective of consolidation. It is the level that's probably, at least the demographers are saying, should be the most consistent over the next several years. So my thinking right now is we leave the elementary alone. The middle school, there's a little bit of wiggle room, but really focusing more on the high school from that perspective. I know listening to Asha and Ava last week and thinking about that 8th to 10th or 8th to 9th grade transition, maybe thinking about the 8th graders in there as well. But this is where I left you off last Thursday, and we'll pick it up from there.
Okay. So some general information about choice transfers. Some districts, as you see in the language later in the presentation, some districts call it waivers, wavering in or out of a district. The formal term is choice transfers. That's what OSPI uses, and that's what we use as districts. That's the paperwork and the portal that we work with. I did link in here so that you'll have it, the RCW that, kind of drives, choice transfers, as well as the OSPI guidance. And I do, Andrews, if you wouldn't mind clicking on the OSP guidance, I just want to go there for a minute and then scroll down to the FAQs. And it says, what are the most common reasons the district denies? There, perfect. So the first bullet is when we receive, requests from non-staff member students, or now city employee students. What the primary reason we deny, is the acceptance of a non-resident student would result in the district experiencing a financial hardship. And I just wanted to highlight that some of the other reasons we're allowed to would be if a student's disciplinary record or attendance record, or, you know, failure to comply with an online program. So there are some other reasons that we have given by the state that we could deny. But the one that we have really held to has been the first bullet point. And I just think that's important context, as we're talking about enrollment and enrollment drops and things, especially at the high school level. We're gonna need to be really thoughtful about if we choose not to, what our reasoning will be. School districts have the ability every year to choose whether they're open or closed. And if you go back to our slide deck, Andrews, we did have a finding from 2013. A student was from another area, another district, and applied for choice transfer. We gave the hardship reason, and they appealed to the Office of the Ombudsman, and we lost that because we could not prove that the acceptance of that one child in that grade level, I believe it was 10th grade at the time, maybe 9th grade, was actually going to pose a hardship. It was easier for us to deny, but it didn't pose a financial hardship. So that student was enrolled, and we then had that student for the duration of their high school. I also will highlight that Tahoma and the Tahoma School District has had a number of these recently, where they have denied on financial hardship and they have lost almost every time. So when I was speaking with their person who oversees their choice transfers, she was saying, you know, they end up having about 200 students choice into their district annually, inclusive of staff, but it's largely because none of the criteria are met. We can't in perpetuity be closed forever. Like with the finding in 2013, if we never have an opportunity, there are times where districts have been told, like, you will accept, and they lose then the autonomy and agency over that process. So anything you want to add to that kind of?
No, I mean, as we were able to kind of stay out of this game for a long time because of how impacted our schools were. So as we're moving into this new area, we're learning more and more. And that's part of the last week of work that we've been doing, is trying to learn from other districts, getting on the phone with other school districts and hearing from what their experience is, because some of this is, you know, what is OSPI going to support us on or not as we're going through this process. And some of this we've learned as recently as just this morning, so.
Yeah. I'm gonna skip the surrounding districts and get to that in a minute, but we did contact several surrounding districts just to see what's happening, because the landscape is changing. Because lots of districts are facing similar challenges with enrollment and funding. And a big chunk of it we're already ahead of, because we've had a couple hard years, and other districts haven't felt those pinch points quite yet.
Sorry,
What's that?
can I just ask a quick question? Can you just help me understand, like, the choice transfer and how it leads to financial hardship? Because I thought one of the considerations for considering choice transfer was to get the team to our schools. So
Getting the what?
getting the student in our schools and then getting the state funding, or am I just completely?
But some students cost a lot more than.
Yes, they do. Okay, so is that it?
That's part of it. It's also, you know, if we have, let's say in third grade, we have 65 students.
Great.
And somebody is requesting it, and it's at Island Park, we have 65 students.
If we approve, I don't know what the magic number is. But if we approve a certain number, then we get into a place where we can't just have well, we would need 3 classrooms, right? So at 65, we might want to fill that classroom. But if we drop down to 54, it might pose a financial hardship, because if we get to that sweet spot number where we need a 3rd classroom, all of a sudden it's costing way more than we're bringing in. We're bringing in $12,000 per kiddo, but it's costing us $170,000 to staff that room, to get new supplies and things like that. The cost benefit is a loss to us, and so that would provide a financial hardship. So we've said our classes are full, we're at capacity. There have been times before Northwood was built that we were denied because we didn't have the physical space, and the financial hardship would be bringing on another portable and things like that. So in looking at it, yes, you're right. What we're talking about, and what we've been talking about in this last week, was looking specifically at like 8 through 12 or 9 through 12, because that's where we have a drop in enrollment. So we'd be looking for that positive influx of money if we were to bring students in. But it's the same reason, the converse reason, I guess, is why we wouldn't be looking, say, at elementary.
Right.
Okay, does that answer your question?
It completely makes it clear. Thank you very much. Dan?
Yeah, so looking at RCW 28A 225-220, the mandatory language.
Wait, what, Dan? What is that?
So looking at the RCW that was cited in the slide, isn't the mandatory language with respect to the releasing district, not the accepting difference, which obviously is quite different?
It's both. So the RCW that's linked there, yes, is about releasing. When you look at the OSPI guidance, it talks much more about the acceptance.
And so is there mandatory language that you can share about that the district who the student is wishing to go into has an obligation to accept? Because that's linked is just about mandatory obligations with respect to the releasing district.
I'm happy to pull it and add it there. I didn't, but I can.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big difference. So I'd appreciate that.
Yeah. What I'm referencing from the finding of 2013 was specifically an appeal to OSPI that went through, and OSPI and the Office of the Ombudsman is the one that oversaw that for us.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the provision that you included in the slide, Jamie. Thank you.
Erin, did you want to add something?
No, I think you've largely addressed it, but we have had appeals since 2013, and really it was looking at space availability, and also in our contract language with the CBA, where things would trigger economic, like we now have to pay an overload, or when we would have had to add a portable or hire a new teacher. Like we don't have to hire new teachers to accept other students. So those are things that, and then we also, I mean, this sort of hats off to our maintenance and operations department. They do a good job of figuring out the utilization of space, which I think leads to what you were speaking about, Director Prescott, which is just looking at the schools where we might have a decline enrollment and therefore physical space. We still have to look at, the contract language in the CPA where there's like hard caps on classes, and things in programs. But those are the things that are looked at, when they're analyzing or, determine whether or not a denial of a interdistrict transfer was reasonable and appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I could get, I guess, additional information about the district who is being sought to transfer into their obligation, that would be much more helpful since we're talking about accepting students in rather than releasing them. So I can review that mandatory or whatever the obligation is for the district that potentially is accepting students.
No problem. Another thing that's coming down the pike is the WIA transfer rule. So there is a proposed amendment right now in front of the WIA Rep Council. There will be a vote taken in April with a provision to allow for a one-time transfer without a penalty. So the way that athletics work, if I am a resident of Mercer Island and I have been attending Mercer Island schools, If I choice transfer to Bellevue and I'm in 7th grade, well, I'm gonna keep it clean. If I'm in 9th grade this year and next year I choice transfer to Bellevue High School as a 10th grader. If I am an athlete and I want to participate in a sport, I am not eligible to participate in varsity athletics when I get to Bellevue High School. I can go through an appeal process. There are a number of different criteria. There's hardship, there's financial hardship. There are a number of things that could be a grounds for appeal. But unless I win an appeal, I'm not varsity eligible. The WIAA is thinking that perhaps they will offer a one-time transfer where a student athlete would not face that penalty. So it would benefit the athlete in that initial transfer. They could go where they want. They could be varsity eligible, but they can't school hop. So it couldn't be that I'm here for my freshman year, I go to Bellevue High School and get varsity clearance for my sophomore year, and then I go to East Lake High School for my junior year and Redmond High School for my senior. Like I lose my eligibility by doing that to compete at a varsity level, but they're looking for a one-time exception where you could make one jump. That might play a role for us. I was talking with our athletic director and just trying to get a sense of what she felt that would do for us. The reality is Bellevue School District is open right now. If that were to be a one-time approval, like there are some kids who choose not to make that transfer because they don't want to lose their eligibility. But there are a number of students who, even talking with athletic directors around the area, they already know of a number of students who in a particular program are going to be going to Bellevue. They've already submitted their choice paperwork and they're going to start because of certain athletic programs that are offered there. So that's just something to consider. That's coming up in April.
So I have a quick question here. How strong is our sport program? Are we have the chance to lose some students just because of this opportunity, or we will be attracting more?
Do you mind? Can I read what she was in the meeting with athletic directors today, and I asked her these questions, and can I just read you her response? Because I thought it was nicely worded, and I don't want to butcher her words. So she said, I think if we do not open enrollment and this amendment passes, it has the possibility to hurt us and lose athletes. Bellevue comes to mind specifically as they have open enrollment. I don't think the number would be significant, but some programs may be hurt more than others. If we switch to open enrollment and the amendment passes, I think many families would be attracted to our high school and our athletic programs, as the perception of MI is very positive and success is synonymous with the island.
Jamie, on that exemption, the one thing I thought I knew, but now I'm questioning you if I made an assumption. Is the one-time exemption, is that per athlete during their 4 years of high school, or is that just for the 24-25 year?
It's per athlete for the duration of their eligibility.
Got it. So
now here's where it's nuanced and why I started with 9 through 12. A student's athletic eligibility actually starts in 7th grade. So it would be one time between 7th and 12th grade. Not that they're competing at a varsity level, so it wouldn't necessarily impact them, but say they were an 8th grader at IMS and then choice transferred to Sammamish High School, they still have to prove that they have to get an appeal. Or they could be allowed to do it, but technically your eligibility is for 6 years, and that starts in 7th grade.
got it. Okay.
Another bit is just the benefits of considering 8th through 12th grade. We typically, and when Fred and I started talking about this, we were talking about, it was the high school and the high school numbers and enrollment that seemed to be most impacted by the shifts in our enrollment for the coming years. And in thinking about it, it is a natural break, right? When you change levels, when you go elementary to middle to high. But there is something to be said for being in our community, being at the middle school for 8th grade, experiencing some of those transition days, some of the connections that are made between youth activities,
all island band night and band blast, like different pieces. Some of the athletic teams will do things together. Sometimes clubs will join things, or the middle school robotics has gotten to come and work with our high school robotics club. So just some of those connections that could potentially be made in 8th grade, that might be something to consider instead of doing it just by level. If there's capacity in 8th grade, that might also benefit some people. I've heard, and again, I'm not trying to start an Island Park is closing rumor, but I've heard some things thrown around, right? Like maybe people who own businesses on the island, allowing their students to come, or having people who work on the island, and trying to define the scope of who we might expand to allow to choice in. What I just want to make sure that this isn't lost. The more narrowly we define who can or can't come, the harder it is on our staffing resources to actually verify. And so then we have to determine whether or not that's where we want to invest our resources. So I can use residency and residency verification as an analogy, where you've got to be a resident right now to live here unless you choice in because you're a city employee or a staff member of the district. But the residency process is complicated, and it has to be because we have to check that if you're a homeowner, that there's a deed or some type that you are the legal owner, that you've got homeowners insurance, there's bills to verify that you're living on the island. Unfortunately, we have a number of families who skirt the system, and it's a matter of how much time and energy and staff time do we invest in tracking that down. That usurps the process, and we're dedicating staff time to try to, I mean, I've done home visits, people, students and blessed students, like they are the ones who typically say like, oh, I'm always late to school because traffic coming across the bridge. And so then staff are like, oh, wait, I didn't know you, it says that you live here. And then the teacher talks to the registrars reach out, they ask for verification from the family, they ask for new utility bills and things like that. And it's just a process of trying to track down. You're supposed to be eligible to attend here, you need to live here. You could be a renter, you could be here doubled up with another family through McKinney-Vento and the homeless status. You could be here through being a homeowner. But there are some people who don't fit any of those categories who still try to attend school here. So I just want to be careful that if we're thinking about, business owners, when Fred I think mentioned, like, well, what if it was business owners or people who work on the island? I was like, okay, well, are we tracking down and are we establishing that it's post office boxes? Do those addresses work? And if my business is centered in my home, does that work? And how do I know how many employees there are? Like, at what point are we the employment control trying to track down who's really where? So I put that out there because those are things that are directly in my world. And I think about the people we have, and they're really the registrars at each of the sites who at the time that we typically verify residency is at the beginning of the year. So if we're looking at eligibility, the more narrow it is, the harder it is to try to track.
And then putting aside like the district employees or whatever, who, or city employees who could come in at any age, if we were to open choice transfer 8 to 12 or 9 to 12, then sort of mirroring what the other districts, it looks like we would just be open, right? Like we wouldn't be limiting it to city, having a business on the island or whatever. Does that, so it sounds like it's two different sort of rules basically, which is appropriate. Like if we've already decided we're gonna let city employees send their kids to our schools at any age, but this sounds like we're looking at something different of high school or high school plus 8 or whatever.
To give some perspective, to like how many students do, by having our staff bring their students here. We have 60 students currently, who choice in from other places where they live with their parents because they're staff members. Of those 60, 19 of them are in grades 6 through 8, and 26 of them are in 9 through 12.
So the bulk of students who come with staff members are at the secondary level. We did open up to current city staff. This year, we had 3 families apply. Those 3 families generated just a handful of students. It wasn't a big coup. It wasn't like we suddenly grew by 100 new students. But that was kind of the number. Another group to think about, or thing to think about, would be our coaches. You know, we have some incredible coaches who, and I can say, have already inquired. You know, hey, can my kiddos come here? I've invested in this community. I have a great service to provide. I do have another full-time job. This is my side gig. This is what I do to give back. Can my children be a part of this community? So that might be a group to think about. And, you know, as we talk about retaining quality educators, quality coaches, and adults who are with our kids, that might be something to consider. Again, I don't know, kind of like the city staff, I don't think there's gonna be a huge boom, but it might be something to think about. Okay.
Dan?
Yeah, as Jody said, and something that I feel strongly, I think there's 2 very different ways to look at open enrollment. There's expanding what it means to be a member of the community and to contribute here. And then there's traditional open enrollment where it's open to everyone, filling to a quota, and it's a lottery. Focusing a little bit on the second. At the first, I'm very open to ideas. I supported opening up to the city, recognize there might be some administrative challenges where we draw the lines if we were to expand what it means to contribute meaningfully to the community. But focusing on the traditional open enrollment, a few questions. I mean, one, when I look at high schools throughout the region, there's a large variation. Issaquah has 2,500 students. I think Skyline has 2,100 students plus. I'm sure there's high schools that have less than us. So one is, what number are we filling to if we were to go the more traditional route? 2 is looking at, I think, you know, version 2 of the Davis demographic. We show 25% decline over the next 5 years and 35% over the next 10 years at the high school level. Is the suggestion that we should maintain current enrollment levels? And if so, is the implied suggestion that 10 years down the line, it'll be 35% non-resident students at the high school level?
I think, so the first question of what is the number that we're filling to, I would say we have not looked at it to that degree to be able to talk about the exact FTE. That then would also drive the conversation for the long term if we're thinking about the overall decline and where do we want to keep the high school, what do we want to keep in terms of the high school numbers. I think a couple of things drive that. Most importantly is, what are the offerings that we have in our school as far as, you know, to all of our students. And then the second piece is obviously, you know, what is the long-term look for the feel of the high school. I was talking to our high school principal today. He was talking to a different high school in our region who I think they have over 400 students who are currently either seeking or who are already been allowed into the high school, and they're a 1,600 high school, 1,600 student high school. So you're talking about a quarter that are potentially choice transfer. I don't know what the impacts are on that, but I certainly understand your inquiry, Director Lawrence.
Oh, are you done?
No.
Oh, okay. No.
Just one thing on,
I didn't think so.
oh, what did I have? I had another thought.
She's like, not nearly.
Oh, I know. Director Lewis, you mentioned, you know, more of that traditional, the way of open enrollment. I would classify our last open enrollment in 08-09 as wide as you can possibly get. And what I mean by that is, it was kindergarten through 12th grade. It was as when you enrolled, you could stay until 12th grade, and all your siblings, no matter if they were born or unborn, could also attend the school district. what we are seeing in some of the language from the other districts, and you'll see this as well, is some districts are doing the transfer is only good year to year. It's like a year to year lease. And it's not, and other districts are saying it's good for the grade span that you're in. So there are some other bumpers that we are seeing that other districts have done, that have certainly narrowed it way more than we had done when we last were doing 0809.
I just wanted to share this information, having had conversations with another district that has it on the year-to-year thing, is they were seeking parity with district staff, because if you cease being a district staff member, in most districts, you then have, your kid can finish the year, but then has to transfer out. So just, that would be the rationale, I'm not saying, just because that was a bit of information I didn't know.
Then that's the question I have.
Director Flowitz, to your question earlier, I'm sorry, I had a minute while Dr. Rundle was responding to you. In the link in the slide deck here under OSPI guidance, if you scroll all the way down, there is a list of the laws and policies governing student transfer. So all the RCWs are linked there. I did go back into the slide deck and specifically link the acceptance and rejection standard RCW. So I put that in that slide deck, so once it refreshes, you should have that as well.
Actually, it's a PDF on Word docs.
Oh.
So we'll post the PDF after the meeting.
Perfect.
That works.
Thank you.
So question, and maybe we don't have any data, and maybe it was a correlation without a causation. But last we opened up open enrollment was 0809, and we then failed to bond in 2012. Do we have any information of those districts that have opened enrollment and the impact on public support for passing school bonds?
I don't have that information offhand, in terms of what that looks like. I'm sure we could take a look at that anecdotally, a little bit, but I don't know if there's a causation correlation, as you said.
To just give some numbers of things, as you're continuing to talk, for next year. So as of today, we currently have, so it's not posted anywhere that we're open, that we're accepting open enrollment, but we happen to have 3 non-staff requests for 9th graders submitted through the portal already. Annually, we always get a handful of them. So for this school year, we received 4 transfer in requests from middle school, and we received 7 from high school. So that's 11 that we denied. They didn't meet any of the criteria. So we weren't open. They knew we weren't open, but they still applied on the chance that we might need to fill a spot somewhere. And that happens every year, that people just seeking that. So when I looked at who was transferring out, who choiced out of our district, we had 22. Of those, 15 students went to other in-person schools. 8 of them went to the Bellevue School District, 6 specifically to Bellevue High School. I also was looking at things like I've heard in board meetings before, like what about offering IB programs? Like what are other things that are drawing students? No students were choiced to an IB school.
Okay.
Nobody went to Interlake. 2 went to Sammamish, 2 went to Bellevue High School.
Interlake's closed anyway.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Interlake and Bellevue's open, Sammamish is open.
Report.
They're not all open in Bellevue, and I know that Interlake is closed.
Got it. Well, that would explain why none of them transferred to their IB program. Then there were, let's see, 3 of them who went to Rhinebeck Aviation High School. And then there were, I think, 7 who went to, or 6 who went online, so to a full-time online school. So not droves, but just it's out there. Kids are kind of coming and going. And like I said, for next year, there's 3 in the pipeline, before we've made a decision and before we've, published or advertised any. In looking at other schools in the area and where they are, we just tried to include for you here, what they're doing. Many of them, are either opened today or have been open since kind of mid-November. So making that determination every year annually in April, we're definitely on the later end of places that have opened up and that are now accepting those places, you'll see that there are some districts who are really clear. Placement is granted for 1 year and 1 year only, which has the potential, like that weighs on a family. You know, if I know that as a freshman, my student is gonna be accepted and will be a part of a community for 4 consecutive years, I might be more apt to pursue that than hearing that they're gonna be accepted for 1 year, and then the next year they might not be accepted, and then we're gonna be bouncing schools. We know that, trying to keep transitions to a minimum and allowing students to thrive in a consistent environment is beneficial to them. So that's, again, a family choice. But some districts are very clear about only being 1 year. Yeah.
If they did the 1 year transfer to have parity with the staff, would the staff be able to, but we decided, I'm not saying that I'm thinking this, but just, and we decided to like let someone go through their entire high school experience if they came in at 9th grade, would the staff then get pulled into that? Like it would still be parity, it would just be like, yeah, so it's not, we don't need to worry about being unfair to our staff if we're.
Right.
If we decide to let outside choice come in for 4 years.
We can be more permissive.
Right.
And you could also choose.
Sorry, Jody, can you just repeat that?
Well, Erin had said that one of the reasons that the other districts go 1 year only is because for staff, they have to, you know, if their contract ends, then the kid can finish out that year, but then they can't come back. So if the kids are on a year. But we could change it. So if we did our choice transfer where we were saying like, yeah, you can have a whole high school experience here, if you come in 9th grade, then the staff could fold into that more permissive structure. Yeah.
I got it. Thank you.
Another variable to be thinking about are that of siblings. So when we opened in 8-9, we said any student that was accepted through choice in that year, any siblings would be allowed in for the duration of their education. We still have students who are in our system as a result of having a sibling who was here in 08-09. You know, there's some families who've had, 12 kiddos come through. And will still be with us for a number of years. So that's another consideration is, are you talking about individual students? Are you talking about families? Are you talking, if you accept a student in 8th grade and say, you're gonna be here for the duration until you graduate from high school? Is that to that one student? Does that apply to siblings? Does it apply to siblings if there's room? There's lots of things to be thinking about, and you wanna make sure you're really clear in the language of what that would include and exclude.
Piggybacking off of Jody's question, are there any districts that have, if attended school in the district for X number of years, whatever that is, that you maintain eligibility to attend school in the district if your eligibility criteria goes away? For instance, someone who's attended school on Mercer Island for, let's say, 5 years, but then the family moves to an outlying area that would sort of tie it to the duration that they were a student on Mercer Island.
So we have a provision like that in ours, specifically for students who it's not about number of years or duration. It's if they were a student up through their junior year, we want students to be able to stay and be able to graduate from here. So if a student has been with us, we allow them to choice back for their senior year, but we don't have any rules about duration. And I haven't found districts that have said, if you're here for 6 years, you qualify for continued enrollment.
But we
don't have that same, sorry, Dan, we don't have that same policy for middle school, for example.
No. If you leave during the school year, if you move, you're allowed to remain for the duration of that year, but no. Sure. It's only, the exception is only for 11th graders rising to 12th grade so they can graduate with their peers.
Sure. I guess I'd be curious if a family moved in when their child was in 7th grade, whether they could, I don't know about if other people would be interested in hearing this, but I'd be interested in hearing kind of what the impact might be on the middle school, like if there would be any negative impact to that, letting kids finish out their middle school experience with us.
There wouldn't necessarily be a negative impact, at least at this time, because of our current enrollment status. And I haven't seen it for a while, what we're describing, but I remember it from a while ago where instead of saying you can only finish out, you know, if your family left in third grade, you could only finish out your third grade year, but you could finish out that grade band. So someone could stay through their fifth grade year and then they'd have to reapply for a choice transfer into a middle school. So I haven't seen that for a while, but that was kind of in play early, you know, a decade ago.
And there are the other districts that we spoke with, they try, so they have to hold a hard line and say it's only for a year at a time and we'll cut you loose if our numbers grow. But in talking to them, it's unofficial that whenever they can, they try to accommodate to allow a student or family to continue, just to have the continuity of education.
Thank you.
So short of reading every bullet point from every school listed on here, that's all.
So I've heard some good questions here, thinking about, is there any information out there from Piper Sandler or something on bond failures and open enrollment? Not sure. What number are we trying to fill to, and thinking about some of those components. I do meet with, Mr. Wold tomorrow. This is a topic, on our agenda, for discussion as well. And then I have talked to Mr. Wold about having him join perhaps with some other staff from the high school to provide other information next Thursday for continued conversation on this. Feel free to send any questions along the way that we can help to all of us to make an informed decision. Director Martinez.
Absorb information and
Yeah.
so I do have a question, and it is on the morality portion and the integrity. So when we were in Olympia, the superintendent Chris Rickdall brought up a slide that showed where we were in the national level. And it's the picture that you I don't know if you recall, and I can send it to you.
Was it the funding where we were with funding per student?
And he was saying that the ones that were doing the lower numbers, those were the ones that had choice options.
He said, well, that's where, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, and that the impact on the education and as a state, no, I'm not talking about the district, and this is why it is complicated, because I think that, well, he stated that those states had lower performance and the segregation was higher within those because they allowed that, and that was the biggest difference between the other states. Thinking about that, it is one of those things that I think about the unintended consequences, that if we all in the region decide to do choice, it is a morality question that we have to ask if we are allowing two schools to start segregating, that those who have the option to go to a better district. And I think in our case, we might benefit because we have a very strong program, but maybe Rainier will not. And I think that's a question we also have to question, because although our job is to see for our students, it is also a moral an integrity question, right, of us. So, and I don't know if we can ask this to the superintendent Chris, to see if what other variants they isolated for that data, because it might be more than that, more than just a choice. It might be that there's a higher poverty, like there's so many things that but if that's the like after they isolate all the variants, that is something that we have to question ourselves where we go.
Can I, just to follow up, my recollection of his, and I sent you the picture that Christina just showed you. My recollection of that was he was talking about districts where there are a lot of charter schools. So like not choice transfer into other districts, but it was districts where there were charter schools that the students, so the districts were segregating that way. Like they were like sort of Christian charter schools that were taking, so the white, more educated students and then the public schools were being left. with poorer families. So that was my recollection of that part of his talk.
Maybe you're right.
So it wasn't a choice, it was more like that.
It's on the same.
But no, but
on
we've
the
had this,
reality
yeah,
of
we've talked about this before.
Because I can see how, for example, I have friends in Seattle complaining how the honor system in the high school is not existent and they're looking for other options. And we do have that, and I see how we will be attracting a lot of, and what happens on the other end. And it is just, and maybe you're right on that, and it's just one of the things, that we just have to understand that we have to live with our decision and it will be fine, just, question about that.
Yeah, I don't think your question, I don't think Director Lee is saying that at all too, that your question or your wondering is without merit, for sure. I do sense, having listened to Superintendent Reichel over the years and getting the lay of the land here in Washington, I felt like he was making a political statement about vouchers and charter schools more than he was actually making a statement about that based on where that dig was going. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's where I thought was kind of happening there.
But the point is fair, and it's very fair.
Absolutely.
I think, and I would struggle with it a lot more if everyone's opening.
Of course. Yeah.
They're all opening.
I
But I agree with you, and that's one of the reasons, I mean, yeah, it's a very fair question, and,
Yeah, and it was eye-opening for me when we learned that the choice transfer, the other districts were doing it. Because like before, like Christina and I had talked about it, and we'd both come to that understanding, like it's not fair for us to cherry pick the best students from poor districts or whatever, like, but I mean, even if they would much rather come here, like we have to think sort of holistically of our larger community, but if everyone's doing it, then that just changes, it completely changes the equation, I think.
well, it's also how you do it. It's
Yeah.
not cherry picking because it's.
Well, they're self-selecting, not like.
Well, they're self-selecting,
Yeah.
we're not self-selecting, and then it's lottery,
Yeah.
or based on when you.
Yeah.
But I think that we
Submit.
also are attracted that we're a small community, that it is small district and we have a lot of benefits compared to building that is nearby to families that live on the Seattle side, I guess. So it's something that we have to just keep thinking.
Can I ask a question at a different point?
I don't know how long Maggie Ty's hand has been.
Oh, sorry,
or not,
Maggie.
so it's the only thing.
It's okay. No worries. Just for a bit. I wanted to just draw your attention to the slide deck that was included in the agenda. There's slide number 12 out of like 24 is a graph showing how, yeah, that one, enrollment trends. I think that graph is really misleading because it's just basically chopped off all the bottom part of the bars. So it looks terrible. I mean, it looks like there's going to be, like, if you just glance at it, it looks like there's going to be no one left in our schools in about 2 more years. So I think a more proportional graph, even though I can see what whoever created this graph is trying to express, I think it would be more fair and better communication to the public to like include the bottom part of the bars. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I created this.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's perfectly fine. This was brought up by some members, even MIEA had brought this up. Where this is generally shown is within the context of narrowing in, almost like taking the macro level, which is that 1972 to 2032, where it is all the way up, and then we go in and we look at just a particular, then we start to narrow in on the time frame, and then we go into the school year. It was also some criticism that we had in the past about it was really hard to read the graphs when you started at 0 and went to 4,400. So it was a give and take on that. Point well taken. You do have to realize that there is a break and it starts at 3,700. So
yeah, maybe just like if you show the big graph and then, usually I hate animations and graphs, but maybe you show the big graph and then you go like whoop and you narrow in and then you show the tops that you've removed to make it clear. I don't know. Anyway, you get the idea. The other thing is just, I think as far as like communicating with the public about even what this discussion is about. Like, I'm already hearing some kind of murmurings in the community of people going like, why is the board suddenly, looking at suddenly looking at open enrollment when they never have before? And I think just, it's a issue that I think a lot of people will feel strongly about one way or the other. So I think it's important to communicate what we're talking about and why we're talking about it and how it's different from, any other year that I've been on the board, at least. Because in the past we have not had a superintendent make a recommendation in favor of open enrollment in any shape or form. And when we have discussed it, we've discussed it as this like all or nothing topic where it's been like, well, if we do open enrollment, we'll have to have, we'll have extra kids in the system, K through 12 and all their younger siblings. Like, that's a huge commitment to take on. And we've never really been interested in it. And so this is something that's very like time specific to right now, to where we are in terms of enrollment and what's going on around us. And we're talking about it on a much more limited basis. So I just think it's important to kind of communicate that as we are going through the process of even having these discussions.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I began it a week ago as just, here's some early thinking, reminding everyone that this is usually an April conversation, then to allow you to have some time tonight in a more informal study session, to then prepare us for some more specific communication coming out as we get towards your next board meeting going forward. So completely agree with you and appreciate the eye on that communication piece.
Thank you.
I think it might be helpful to start an FAQ, in terms of, because, if someone tuned in tonight and hadn't tuned in last week, we didn't really answer the why. We know we're in an enrollment decline, but, the primary reason to do this is because, at the high school level, our students select their courses, and then courses are offered based on that student selection. If we can't fill up classes, we can't offer them. So as our enrollment gets smaller, we won't be able to offer as many courses because the school funding that we get per student doesn't change based on the size of your school. So we will start, and already are, but we'll start even more so to have a huge impact on being able to offer the breadth of classes that we currently offer. So not only, for me, it's, I'm much less concerned about extracurricular activities and sports activities, clubs, things like that, because, you manage with the size that you have typically. Sports, sure, sometimes you need, minimum numbers and things like that, but you deal with it. With courses and offerings, it's one of the things that makes us special is being able to offer those courses for students at our schools. We don't want to see them going elsewhere. And we also think that we provide the best opportunities, so we want to be able to continue to do that. If we are looking at a 25% drop in the high school enrollment over the next 5-6 years, we're going to be able to offer 25% fewer choices of courses. And, it isn't really, if we open at high school, is it really related to, the fact that the community strongly supports 4 elementary schools? Well, sort of, because it's an overall budget issue, but not really. But at some point, we have to, it's our responsibility to be looking at enrollment and budget and staffing, and we do that constantly. So just because people hear about it for the first time, about a specific example of one of these things, we are constantly doing these things. This is what we do. It's our job. And so, this is, sometimes we look at it in more depth, and just because we're gonna look at it more in depth if it's something that we haven't done in a long time. Like if we've been kind of status quo with being closed, and now we're considering opening in some capacity. Again, we don't make decisions. We don't have discussions about things if a decision's already been made. It's disrespectful. It would be a waste of everyone's time. So this is, like Dr. Rosa said, bringing it to us now to start this conversation early, because it is something being proposed that's different than what we've been doing. As we can all see, it is not a new idea, and it's not something when we hear the Vashon is 20% choice. out of district, right? Is that the right number? So schools have been doing it for quite some time. And at this point, we've been bursting at the seams, and our high school is no longer bursting at the seams. And if we want to be able to provide the same opportunities for our students, we have to do something. And it's either offering fewer options or it's getting more students so that we can fill those classes so that we can offer them. So we want to hear feedback. I would encourage us all to speak to, we're starting to talk about it at our community meetings, the student teaching, learning advisory. SPLA yesterday, we started talking about it. I'm sure it will start coming up at the PAC meetings. The benefit we have is that when we were open in 0809, we have many people, especially staff, who was present for that and experienced it and getting their feedback. I've never heard a negative thing about it. I've only heard positive from families who were involved and from staff. So I would encourage people to talk. New is scary, change is hard. But we are fortunate that we've got people who have been through this. And so really, if you have questions and concerns, ask the questions, express the concerns, and we're gonna continue this conversation and learn more. We're gonna keep talking about it at our board meeting next week. No decisions are gonna be made. We will make a decision on how we want to go out to the community. In terms of if we do a formal going out to the community, or we're just asking for informal feedback, the board can decide how we're gonna do that if it's appropriate.
It's been part of all of our budget roadshows at all the schools. It will be part of Tuesday night's budget roadshow for the whole community. It is a question that we continue to receive from many different people, and that's why we're out there having these conversations. So we're not trying to keep it from any groups that we're meeting with, whether or not they're realtors or teacher and learning community advisories, just so that it is out there. But I'd be curious, just Ava, if you're hearing anything, or if you and Asha are hearing anything, or has your thinking, as you've thought about this, last week, I thought you shared some insightful aspects of what it means to be a student in the high school and being new. I don't know, any other thoughts that you've had recently?
I think a lot what Director Larry said, I think it's important that students have the options for classes. I think that's one of the biggest gifts that we can grant students, just being able to have all of the different pathways and finding the right education for each person and having diverse pathways. So I think that having a bunch of different course options is really important.
Yeah, I agree with Ava. This year we've been working on the We Belong Islanders and the Is That campaign. But the part of the reason our Islanders can belong is because they have a space to figure out what they like and figure out what's right for them on island. And so to be able for them to continue to explore all these new and amazing courses on island, you're gonna need to have more kids. So unless they want to go to Bellevue College or they choose choice transfer. So I just think if we're thinking about retaining our students too, you have to think about making sure they have a reason to stay.
Director Glows, did you have your hand up? Did I see one or no? Okay. Did you have something else, Jamie?
I was just gonna say, I think it's great to start the conversations, and the more we can talk about it, I think it doesn't necessarily, somebody doesn't feel the impact until they understand what is the potential impact of a decision or a non-decision, or yesterday in the STLA meeting, a parent, I believe it was a parent, because I was on Zoom, I heard it. Somebody said don't, make sure you run this class.
Yeah.
And that was a great opportunity, right? It came across hey, my kid's really interested, make sure you run this. And then I heard Fred kind of unwind and explain, it's not that simple, right? Just because we had 14 kids who wanted that class, those 14, that might be their number one class. But we can't run a class with 14 students in it. And so it's not that we don't want to offer that class, it's not that we value something else, it's that students enrolled in something else. And the student enrollment is what drives the courses that we can offer. And so I think, you know, just in hearing that and thinking about myself as a parent, like if I have a kid who's passionate, I'm like, make sure you run that, and I wanna make sure it's offered every year, because I want that opportunity, it sounds so great. That's such a surface level. And until you understand what it's gonna take to run that, there's that sense of disappointment of like, well, what do you mean you're not running that? You don't value this. No, that's not it at all. We want to run all.
And Jen McClellan made the point of, I think it was Media Tech, she said that, you know, it has long-term consequence or long-term impact. They didn't get the enrollment. I could be wrong in the class, so don't quote me on it, but there was a course where they didn't get the enrollment and then they lose the teacher. And then when there is the desire, they can't get the, you know, especially in a lot of the specialized courses, can't get the teachers back to teach it for people who are, you know, coming to teach 1 or 2 courses a semester. So it can have long-term impacts, not only on the students at the moment, but then future students as well. So, you know, the discussion of the why are we doing this or why would we and why wouldn't we are really important to be having. And I think that's, you know, for me, probably the most important to be hearing from the community in terms of the values is kind of the why. And not worrying about too much of the specifics because we have amazing staff that's gonna figure all that out.
Yeah, and it'll come full circle on Thursday because in conjunction with this conversation of why this all fits together hopefully like a puzzle. Director Adams, Director Sullivan, who else is coming to do the budget? Or I mean the staffing.
Assistant Director Garcia, not staffing, FTEs.
FTEs.
Enrollment.
So we'll have enrollment next Thursday and you're gonna get our enrollment forecast for next year by level. So you'll be able to see that. So trying to bring this all together, bring us all along slowly and thoughtfully so that we can arrive at the best decision for our school district. So that's the information tonight.
Did you want me to?
Oh, yeah. Ian has been monitoring, thank you, Ian.
That'd be real quick, I know we're running late. But...
Ian's been monitoring, along with Nuria Lencina, our portal. And what we started last fall is an online portal where families can submit just questions. I'm thinking about moving and they have lots of different inquiries about programs and opportunities and enrollment. And so I had asked Ian, you know, what's your sense of that? And he put together some data with Nuria on this, of who's inquiring about our district in the first place.
So we opened up the prospective MISD student families contact form October 27th. And then we got our first question on October 29th. We've received 48 questions since then about enrollment, different aspects of enrollment. We've broken this down into 4 different sections. There's new families that we know are on Mercer Island. There's private school families that are on Mercer Island. They're going to a private school. There's new families that are asking questions where we don't know their residency from what they're asking. And then there are families that are non-residents that we've identified as non-residents based on their questions that are asking questions. So the category lists those 4 groups and the subcategory, what type of question they're asking. And then the third category is students' grade level. So we've broken down what grades they're asking about. We've received 10 inquiries about enrollment from grade 8 through 12. We've received 3 inquiries about kindergarten, 10 about preschool, and 5 revolving around grades 1 through 6. On some of those, if you look at non-resident, if there's a comma after the third column, that means there's two students or 2 potential students. So the family asked about a preschooler on that non-resident, considering benefits of moving versus choice transfer. They're wondering if they should move to Mercer Island or apply for choice transfer. They have 2 kids. So when it says non-resident total of 10, it's actually 12 potential students, but it's 10 families. And so there's a couple other in there that have commas too. So there are a couple more families there. So it's 38 total questions just about enrollment for this coming school year. There's been a couple questions about enrollment for 25-26 and a couple for 23-24. But it's interesting, and we seem to be getting them regularly now, questions. So it's just a real quick overview of some of the stuff we're getting asked about. Any questions?
Okay. More to come. That's it.
Any further discussion, questions they want to discuss next week? Info, obviously, anytime reach out to Fred. Yeah. Something pops in your head and there's data you want.
I'd be interested for next week. I don't want to know tonight, you know. But I would be interested to know like what the timeline is for sort of like for choice class selection and for like the athletic director, if it's people coming in with eligibility and sort of like when that all starts, like I know there's like summer practice, you know, just sort of just a general timeline of like when's the best time for us to have this decision done and dusted either way.
Yep.
And what the other districts' timelines are that we're competing against and what other pressures might be on our.
So I did put in slides 21 and 22, it does show you know, most all of them are open now.
Yeah.
Some are holding those lists until June and then they'll decide. Some are open now, they open again in August, depending on numbers. Some just do it as they come in. So that information is there, but we can get our registration information and that kind of stuff.
Just so we know how our work is to be structured. Yeah.
And it's linked to, it'll be linked, it already is, to your board update this week too.
Perfect.
Anything else?
I actually had a question for the board, completely unrelated to enrollment, but Ava and I are helping with the schedule for the site visit at the high school. So if you guys have anything specific that you guys want to see, feel free to let us know now or shoot us an email.
I have something. I have never seen an art class at the high school. All the times I've been to visit the high school, not anything. Music, don't worry about. I've seen enough Mercer Island music to last me a lifetime. I love it. It's wonderful. But I know what's going on in the music scene. But like visual arts, I've never seen anything. So if it's at all possible to visit, I would love to.
All right. Good question.
Thank you for asking. That's the first time anyone's ever asked us.
Anyone want to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Yes, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, sorry, students. We're like, 2050.
Hope you feel better, Dan.
Where is the birthday?
We are adjourned.
What time is it? We're in there.
Sitting next to me.
What, you want to stay?
Everything will tomorrow.
We started at what, 9? 6 p.m. So, 9 hours difference.